if you could, spare a couple of quid or dollars or whatever it may be to help the fund along. Two reasons: A, there's good work to be done over there, as we've just been talking about, and B, I've been home for 2 weeks now. My wife is now sick of me being at home, so it is time to go back.
If that's not a good reason, what is? Talking about things going places, Craig, do we have you here? Craig? Craig? No, Craig? Okay. Do they have to start talking about trains, and then Craig will reanimate, possibly.
No, I'm sorry. I just I'm stepping away from my Wi-Fi for a second. Give me 2 seconds.
Absolutely, go ahead. And in the meantime, if I could kindly ask everyone to share and retweet the space, that'd be greatly appreciated. Just to get that algorithm kicking into gear. In the meantime, if you want to help more Ukrainian frontline troops with reconnaissance drones, such as the ones that Sonic was describing, the past hour or so, very, very, what should we say? Very useful things that prevent the need or avoid the need for Ukrainian reconnaissance troops to go, across enemy front lines. It keeps them less exposed. Simple as that. It's much better that they're, well behind their own lines in relative safety with a flying the drone over the Russian lines, looking what's underneath, and thus keeping them much more safe during that time. So if you're interested in helping with that and helping get more of these pieces of kit into Ukraine, check out In the Nest above and check out MriyaAid.org. Beyond that, what I should be telling you is that if you enjoyed our conversation with General Ben Hodges this past week, we're going to be joined by yet another general, not tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, on Tuesday. So on Tuesday at noon Eastern, that's 6 p.m. in Central Europe, 7 p.m. in Kiev, in Helsinki, and I stress Helsinki because it's going to be a Finnish general joining us again. It will be General Pekka Toveri, who was a major general in the Finnish army. He's now a major general in the Finnish Army Reserve. He used to command the Finnish armored school, and later on he was the head of Finnish military intelligence. And he's going to be joining us on Tuesday. That is noon UTC. That's 4 p.m. Noon Eastern, 4 p.m. UTC. So 1600 UTC, 1700 London, 1800 Central Europe, and 1900 Kiev and Helsinki. He was with us just over a month ago, and he's with us here again. And I see that we've been joined by James Vasquez. Very warmly welcome, James.
How are you?
We're doing very well. How are you, James? I think we've seen. I think most of us have seen what was weighing on you today.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to get on in a little while at 9 p.m. So if you guys want to throw that out there, and
9 p.m. Perfect. Absolutely. 9 p.m. Kiev time, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, James. That's in 1 hour time, give or take. We'll make up the card. We'll put it out. We'll tag you, and we'll be here for you, James.
Okay. Thank you.
See, perfect. For anybody who missed that, James Vasquez is going to be joining us in just over 1 hour time. Fantastic. Before we go back to Craig, because Craig and I have some trains to talk about, Pauli, General Pekka Toveri, he's been a rather sought-after figure in Finnish media, hasn't he?
Yes, he's a really good expert, and I think he's been commenting in the Finnish media almost, I would say, every week or every second day. So he's really sought expert in his category and field.
And he's been obviously very much keeping up with everything that's been happening in Ukraine. He's spent his entire working life, his entire career, looking at one possible enemy, you could say, right? Which is just to the east of Finland, that big country to the east of Finland that not Finland, but it decided to attack a different country to its west. And obviously, General Pekka Toveri has been keenly looking at what the Russians have been doing, analyzing it very detailedly, analyzing what the Ukrainians have managed to do very detailedly. And I'm very excited that we'll be joined by him, especially now, in the wake of these Ukrainian successes, liberating some 10,000 square kilometers of territory over the course of the last couple of weeks, mostly in Kharkiv Oblast, but also to a lesser degree in Kherson Oblast. And I think that is it's an excellent time for us to be again joined by General Toveri.
Yeah, I highly recommend tuning in on Tuesday. Mr. Toveri has excellent knowledge on the Russian equipment and their way of waging war, and also waging propaganda and their narrative. So he's a good expert.
Exactly. And more recently, he was the head of Finnish military intelligence, and that gives him a particular insight into things as well. Bloke, welcome.
Hi, Doman. How are you?
I think we're doing rather well today, Bloke. I know you were away for a little while. Is there any particular field that you're interested in getting a little bit of an update in?
I would like to know if the Russians are still trying to attack Bakhmut and why. But I'll read up on that shortly. But
well, I can tell you, yes, they are. I don't know why. I can't answer the why. I don't think anybody can answer the why at this point. It's very difficult to answer the why when the reason seemingly doesn't make any sense at all. But one would presume that they got an order, that they have to, and therefore they will keep trying and trying and trying. Much more importantly, up to the north of that, Ukrainian forces have managed to liberate a few villages and properly liberate a few villages around the town of Lyman, which is the one town really still remaining there, just to the north of Seversky Donetsk, the river, before they can freely go further eastwards towards Kremina and then Rubizhne and Severodonetsk. But so there's definitely been activity going on around there, as well as securing several places on the east bank of the Oskol River, apparently. And all of that, I think, is very, very important to note. In Svatove, the Ukrainian artillery, possibly HIMARS, destroyed a hotel, apparently, that was being used by Russian troops as some sort of a headquarters. That's of meaningful significance as well. Svatove is more or less directly east, just a little bit south, but mostly east of Kupiansk, on the P66, I think, right? That then leads towards Kremina and Severodonetsk, and it seems like they're making good progress there as well. It's all very impressive, of course, and this is exactly the sort of stuff we'll be touching on with General Toveri in a couple of days' time. Antti.
Yes, good evening, Doman. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Carry on, Antti.
Well, actually, I had two things. I noticed that Victoria was on the panel, and I wanted to ask her if she's doing okay. Has she gotten enough sleep lately, and so forth. So, then after that, I have a question for you, Doman, as well. How are you, Victoria? I guess away from the phone. But no matter. I'm sure, she'll get back soon enough. Doman, is there? I've been somewhat away, at least away from the space for a couple of days. I was wondering if there's been, is there still a kind of a media blackout concerning her son, or is there any news trickling in from the Ukrainian counteroffensive?
There's not an awful lot trickling in. Verlaine says that she's having earphone trouble and she can't get them to unmute properly. She's not away. She just can't get the technology to work. I had an awful glitch earlier as well. But see, I don't know exactly what's going on in her son, which probably means that there's either an information embargo still on, or at least nothing trickled all the way down to me.
Yeah.
Because as you know, I am very far down the food chain here, but maybe we'll have someone coming on shortly who will be able to help with that and help address that a little bit. What we have seen is that Ukraine has apparently managed to capture a T-90M tank, which apparently is just about as advanced as Russian tanks go, and I think that might end up being at least somewhat significant, because that's one of those tanks that have been made in very small numbers thus far, and there's only a few out, and apparently one is now being captured with whatever kit the Russians managed to hang onto it. Let's see where it ends up.
But and I think once our friends across the pond get a hold of its innards properly, I think there might be a more plausible explanation about of why the Russians have been so keen on getting their hands on all the washing machines and dishwashers and all other kit, because they've been desperately trying to scavenge for components for their T-90 production line.
Well, exactly. As we've seen there, often Uralvagonzavod's not exactly been working at full capacity over the recent months, has it?
But I'm not sure how many speakers there's coming up. But before I shut up, at least for a bit, a little bird told me yesterday that there was a very good conversation going on about winter war, and I also heard that Pauli is the one who did make some positive impact on that conversation, or brought it up. So I just want to say a big thank you to Pauli that there is more Finnish speakers active on this space. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I mean, until now we barely had any of you, haven't we?
No, not really. No Finns whatsoever.
No, definitely not.
There's been no Finnish invasions of this space ever.
No, never. And there definitely won't be one happening on Tuesday when we're joined by General Pekka Toveri. Definitely not.
No, definitely not. No.
I think last time we had about 400 Finns alone listening to him when he joined us here sometime in August.
Yeah, so that's almost all Finns, right?
Pretty much. I mean, it's at least it is actually a very large proportion of the Finnish population. It's like 1% or 1%, is it?
Well, not quite.
Almost.
No,
1%.
almost. Yeah. I mean, if you want to do some really big rounding up, then sure. Did you? I think you noticed the clip I sent regarding a Finnish sporting event.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
They could have used one of those Patria Sisu things, couldn't they? keep them nice and dry while in the water.
Yeah, but that wasn't the point, really, was it?
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
Wasn't. Okay, but
well,
thank you so much, Doman, and I need to go pretty quickly, but I can stick around for a bit and try to listen in.
Excellent, thank you, Antti. Ian, Good afternoon, Ian.
Hi, Domin. Thank you. Yeah, good morning on West Coast U.S. time.
Oh, you're that side. I see. Good
Yeah,
morning.
yeah. So I know that we don't have enough information regarding her son to say anything definitive, but I'm curious to know whether or not I'm still whether the alternative or all the options that are on the table are still on the table as far as I'm aware, and you know, and those options are, and really what I'm looking for is if we've ruled out any of these options. Option number one is that there's a Ukrainian offensive going on, some of which is in the middle of Kherson proper, and the Ukrainians have not admitted it. Although I think I did see something more from some official channels where they're denying that is a Ukrainian offensive. The other option is that this was staged by Russians to suggest that Ukrainians were being heavy-handed in the middle of Kherson, putting civilians at risk. Yada yada yada. We've heard that argument. I've also heard the argument that this is Russia on Russia. I mean, could this potentially be Russian forces trying to escape or retreat or whatever, and these blocking forces are stopping them, although this would be on a much larger scale than an individual troop trying to break ranks and walk away into the middle of the forest? Are all of these still on the table? All of these possibilities on the table still?
No, it was a propaganda video.
What do you mean a propaganda video, Axel?
Are we talking about the video which was made by the Russians about the 2 Russian IFVs firing in the street?
Yeah, and so yes, and I know that there was suggestion that this was propaganda. There was also suggestion that because if you froze some of the frames, it looked like there was return fire from tracers going back in the direction of the IFVs. So some suggested that was an indication that it wasn't just a staged event. It wasn't just outgoing. They were receiving incoming rounds as well.
I disagree with the ascertainment of tracer fire. Tracer fire looks different, sounds different, has different impact.
Okay, so your assessment was that was a completely staged video, and that the intent was to suggest that the Ukrainians were being irresponsible?
The metadata of the Russian influencer says clearly that his frame was created 15 minutes prior to the IFV's driving.
You mean the first?
I'll let you do the math. 15 minutes prior to the IFV's driving, his recording was made.
In other words, he knew where to be.
You're suggesting?
Well,
I mean,
I'm just interpreting for anyone who's doing other stuff and can't use their whole brain for this.
They would never do that, Dorman. Please.
No, unthinkable, unconscionable.
Axel, are you suggesting that the very first image that was shot in that direction towards that intersection was shot 15 minutes prior to recording any kind of
I think it's 14
kinetic
minutes
engagement?
14 minutes and 50 something, but yes.
So 14 minutes before the kinetic engagement that we witnessed and were so interested in happened, that camera was set up looking in that direction. And you're suggesting that that's much more likely to be staged rather than, there was some prior engagement and some time elapsed between the initial engagement and the one that we are all talking about. That
yes,
it's much
this is the indication I have from people who are much better at this than I am.
Yeah. No, I understand. I'm just trying to. I was just trying to gauge.
No, of course. But what you just stated is absolutely correct.
Yep. Okay. And interesting. Yeah, I was just wanted to make sure that Yeah, just to gauge what the sense was of the alternative hypotheses that are being circulated, and what our sense was of it so far. Thank you.
At the same time, there were fires in the southwest of Kherson City, which were not recorded because there was no influencer and there was no planning.
Yeah, interesting. I don't know what do the Russians get out of suggesting that their troops are actively, in need of repelling Ukrainian forces with IFVs in the middle of downtown Kherson. Like, what is that? What benefit do they get from that?
Well, they're creating different narratives. They are preparing for different narratives. They would like to set up.
So can I answer that really quick, if you don't mind?
Yes, please.
Can anyone hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Craig
loud
actually
and
said
clear.
yes,
I
please.
said yes.
Oh
please.
yeah, sorry. I'm in and out on Wi-Fi, guys. So sorry if I have any audio problems. Yeah, so it propagandally, it actually benefits them a lot, because if you guys remember during the occupation of Iraq through American forces, it's this demonstration of overwhelming power against a substandard enemy, and you're just blowing them away, right? It's no secret that Ukrainian forces are operating in and around Kherson, right? Everybody knows that. That's not like something, Moscow isn't putting forward the propaganda line that Ukrainian soldiers are touching Moldovan territory, right? Everybody knows that Ukrainian soldiers, as far as their extent is Kherson. And so it kind of gives this like, yeah, we're blowing them away, and we got these cannons, and there are these Ukrainians running around the city like Iraqi insurgents, and we're taking care of business, right? Because that reporter is there. He's like, look, there is APC just destroying Ukrainian soldiers with overwhelming Russian power, right? It's a mind game. That's all it is. It's just a mind game.
Actually, Craig, if you're here, I have a question about you, if you bear with me in terms of my naivete about logistics. Do you have a moment?
In Russian accent or in the American accent?
Yeah, good one. I think he dropped down,
No.
and I think he's coming.
No,
up
it's okay. Like I said, my internet's super spotty, or else I'd co-host for you guys. But I'm just in a geographic area where I'm going in between one bar of Wi-Fi and then LTE, so it's spotty. I heard something about logistics.
Exactly, and I thought this was right up your alley. So, I have two questions. So I'm looking at the map, and what Doman said is that the Ukrainian forces are liberating towns north of Liman and might be attacking Liman proper. And then I had a look at the ISW's map, and I see the ground communications. I don't see anything about rail. But one of the questions I have is, that it looks from the ISW's map that the P-66 is key to supplying the South, like we're, including, towns like Lysychansk and Severodonetsk and so forth. Is that true, first of all? And is it being interdicted? And are you aware of what the situation is as far as logistically for the Ukrainians getting stuff in? Like, can they bring it in by rail, or does it have to be delivered by road now? I know you study this stuff, so I'm curious.
Yeah, so I mean, it really kind of depends, right? It depends on geography, and it depends on, what it is you want to accomplish. If you want to accomplish a lot, then you need rail. If you want to accomplish a little, then you can use a truck, right? So it's all determined on what, when, how, and where, right? And so what I would say is that in some of these areas that we're talking about, when you say Liman, remember Liman is a huge, for those that want to kind of see what we're talking about, just Google Liman, Lyman. It's a huge railway stopping line, right? But if you follow the rail out of Liman, it goes to the northwest and it goes to the southeast. It does not go directly west, right? There's no west-east travel line there. that helps you kind of get there. So there is a rail that kind of comes down from Kupiansk that goes to the east of the Oskil Reservoir. I don't think, at least in my mind's eye, I don't think that Ukraine would be using trains that far forward, only because you don't need to. In terms of what you have there. If you have like 3 or 4 brigades, then obviously you'd want to travel with their logistics. And what you're trying to do, to answer your question, Bloke, is reduce the distance of the conveyor belt, right? If you can carry less weight, your conveyor belt of supplies has to be shorter. But if you can carry more weight than per carrying unit, then you can do longer, right? Because each delivery is worth twice as much as opposed to a long drive. So you're still delivering what you need because you have the carrying capacity to deliver it. As far as like what Ukraine is doing rail-wise, I've seen some people have sent me some pretty interesting DMs and dropped some pretty interesting hints on what they're doing with rail wagons, and not so much locomotives. And I'll just let that sit. And yeah, I mean, I think Ukraine's got a pretty good idea of what they're doing in terms of logistics, especially south of Oskil. I think they got that pretty buttoned up. And a big shout out to our UK friends for supplying 120 Oshkosh HEPMET type of logistics vehicles that can move dozens and dozens of tons within a matter of hours.
Now, do we know definitively if the P66 is interdicted, or are they close enough to do that?
I don't think that it really matters if the P66 is interdicted in terms of Russian supplies. I think the only reason we're not seeing a Ukrainian dash towards Severodonetsk is because they realize they don't have to, right? That Russian units in that area are so weak and their position is so untenable that to rush headlong risks overextending and puts you into unnecessary risks, right? The major goal has been accomplished. Kharkiv Oblast is free. We're talking about the recapture of Yampil and Liman. Severodonetsk is next on the plate. I think what you're seeing is not so much like Ukrainian units meeting stiffer resistance. I think they're just like, we don't really need to take this right now because there's nothing really in our way, right? The vast majority of those units around Kharkiv and around Liman were stripped bare to support the Kherson defensive, right? Everybody understands that at this point. Everybody's seeing these groups that have circumnavigated the entire nation of Ukraine to come back up into Kherson. And so what they're seeing is just what's left, right? And I think they're just they extended, they advanced, they got where they needed to go. Now they're going to stop, regroup, have a pause, and then jump off again. That's my hypothesis, at least.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks. That's helpful. I just it's amazing. Just Slava Ukraini. I just want to see them. I mean, I know everyone has to rest and consolidate, but I'm just so looking forward to them liberating their country. I think Antti had a question. Go ahead, Antti.
Yeah, I have a question for Axel if he's still around.
I'm here, Auntie. I just try to refresh my messages, but I can see already up in the nest that everybody has picked up on James Vasquez. So, shoot.
Right. So, if I recall correctly, over the weekend there was some news that German authorities had seized control of, I believe, a couple of, was it oil refineries or other energy-related assets from, was it Rosneft? Yes. So, does this signify any sort of change in the way that Germans, the firmness with which German authorities are?
Nope. It's the
No.
continuation. It's the continuation of the existing policy. It goes hand in hand with the same application which has been made in regard to the national gas storage, where essentially, as you may remember, the German government seized control of the asset through its regulator until the 30th of September, by which time they have to make a decision as to whether, under applicable law, they could technically extend it, which would be hard, or whether they would have to nationalize it. At the moment, Rosneft its refinery assets are just put under the control of the applicable regulator. They are not nationalized quite yet.
Right. So essentially, this is along the same vein as the nationalization talk regarding Uniper.
Yeah,
Or
it's not worth the wait.
right.
Put on. I mean, no.
Right.
It's another part of the procrastination, the lack of decision making, and it's one of the administrative and bureaucratic steps they need to take. But it matters nothing if you don't do the other part.
Right. So basically, it's status quo.
No, we call it status Scholz.
Thank you, Axel. I needed that.
Yeah, I apologize. And by the way, Domin, I'm sorry if I sent you the messages as to Vasquez just now, but I was in meetings before.
No, it's okay. He jumped up earlier. Said he'll be up in an hour.
Yeah, and we should remind people to please retweet this space because we're about to have a guest who is actually on the ground in Ukraine, James Vasquez. People have heard him here before. So please, hit the button on the upper portion of your screen. If you're on an iPhone, share the space. Make sure everyone knows who's coming in a very short period of time. And that's the only way we can really get the word out. Chris, then Craig.
All right, just a quick one. Just that video in Kherson. I'm just like, why would we believe that anything the Russians put out is true? Surely the default is it's not true. To be proved. That's it.
Yes, 100%, Chris.
Craig, did you have a point there to follow up?
No, I think Domin had a train question for me, and before Vasquez jumps on and rightfully takes the attention, I was wondering if he wanted to continue that or he wanted to move on to something else.
Yeah, Craig, I'm curious. It kind of ties in to the Oshkoshes that you mentioned. Hypothetically, if you were setting up Ukrainian logistics, and this isn't any specific knowledge, but kind of like a scenario play. Now that you know roughly what the best that Ukraine might have with regards to road logistics with the Oshkoshes, how far from rail would you go in a country that has the amount of rail that it has, or would you be running everything off of road because it does make it just easier and much less predictable than doing anything by rail?
Well,
the military aspect, obviously, not the civil.
That depends on one primary factor, and that's weight. That's volume. If you want me to be direct, there's only so much that a truck fleet, right, that's attached to each brigade can carry, and it depends on the mission of that brigade. If it is sustained heavy combat, not just a 5-day offensive, if this is sustained operations and you've met a static line and you got to have fire superiority and you got to go, then finding a place where your rail can get a little bit closer to meet that volume requirement, then yes, I would say, yeah, you'd want to run that off of rail. I don't think it's any secret that the Ukrainians have been using rail. I was absolutely shocked when I saw Ukrainians running trains east of Dnipro be in certain capacities. And it shocked me how far they were going. And I obviously, I'm not privy. I'm not in the general staff. I don't see these things. But when they get published on Twitter, it's kind of for the world to see. And then it translated in my mind to like, whoa, if they're running that far east, that's, first of all, that's impressive. Number one, that's very impressive that they're doing that. And then number two, it speaks well to this sustained rate. Bakhmut was brought up, right? And let me just kind of paint this picture for people. You're in the operational space of the Donbass and Kharkiv Oblast, right? So take the area from Kupiansk and go south all the way to Bakhmut. You have 3 separate operations going on. You have an offensive to Kupiansk, right to the Oska Reservoir. You have one up towards Yampil in Liman, and then you have a third towards Bakhmut. That is a lot of stuff you have to move, right? And so you can't do that driving a truck from Dnipro or Zaporizhia into that area because, I mean, you know, the British only gave 120 of these, right? So figure you're moving 5-8 tons. So let's just use the average of 6 tons. 6 tons out of all those, because some of those are refuelers, some of those are cranes, right? That you can actually just pull a train up. Part of the training operation is that you would pull a train up into a middle of nowhere spot that has flat ground, and then all the stuff that's inside is palletized inside these wagons, and then you just pull the train up to where you want it to stop. Excuse me. And then you use the crane to unload the pallets, load those onto your tactical support vehicles, and off you go. The train delivers the volume, the tactical trucks deliver the flexibility. So you're not just doing one long drive from, say, Kramatorsk or Sloviansk to Liman or points east. You can move 5 or 6 wagons full of stuff on a rail line, and then that gives you the volume that you need. But again, this is contingent upon the issue of volume. And what I mean by that are 2 things: aggregate volume and unit volume. Your aggregate volume is your goal, right? So think of it as the proverbial X over Y. X is what you can deliver. Y is what you required to deliver. That's what you have to do. You need it. You need a 1-to-1 parity there. The trucks deliver the unit volume, but do you have the strategic assets to deliver to those tactical units to deliver that 1/1 ratio? And so I would say Ukraine's logistics in this specific area from Kupiansk to Liman are as tight as it gets. They're probably as good as it probably gets, because I think Poltava was actually running rail as well. So Poltava is directly to the west of Kupiansk, south of Kharkiv. That Poltava was and is and will always be a critical rail junction throughout eastern Ukraine. This is no secret. The Russians struck this probably 5 or 6 times when this war started. But the Ukrainians have gotten it running again. In fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Domin, who was it? The CEO of the rail company published a whole thread about how he got the rail running again to a small town.
To Balaklia.
Balaklia, exactly. So that used to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was Russian occupied territory about a month ago, correct?
That was Russian occupied territory 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Thank you. 2 weeks ago. Forgive me. So 2 weeks ago, I'm getting my calendar mixed up. So 2 weeks ago.
That was the first place that got liberated as Ukraine made this push towards Kupiansk. Balaklia was on the Russian side of the lines for months and months and months. Right? And this is the first one when they made this push towards first Balaklia, then Shevchenkovo, then Kupiansk, and then south towards Izium. Balaklia was the first one.
And so that's kind of my point, right? And I just want to, if I could, I just want to add on something in terms of aid. There was a deal that was signed by the British government that provides funding for rail workers and engineers and experts to go to Ukraine, and the Ukrainian government, if I'm not mistaken, the British government, if I'm not mistaken, actually supported that financially. And so they're getting experts in, they're getting engineers, and I don't mean like engineers like toot, like train engineers. I mean like actual building engineers, right? Who know how to build this stuff and build it quickly and get it up and running. And I'm not saying that the Ukrainians don't have that, but any supplemental manpower creates a greater dispersion of weight, which allows you to act more efficiently. And so to answer your question, I would simply say it's a question of volume of unit, and it's a question of volume of the aggregate of the total amount. So it depends on what you want to do and where you want to go and what it is that's in front of you. If it's light forces, then yeah, I don't mind setting up a fleet of 100 trucks, dispersing them throughout the brigade as you might do, right? We don't have these central areas, despite people might think these aren't. Well, the way Russia's doing logistics is completely asinine. You're supposed to disperse your logistics in a maneuver type of situation. They're supposed to be assigned to a certain battalion, a certain brigade. When they get the call, they know where to go. They're tracking that movement. They can't just, a battalion commander can't just be like, hey, you get over here right now. It's not like that, right? They're dedicated forces to support these things. If they get the clearance from above, then yes, absolutely. They can divert because, well, we thought that was going to be rough, but actually it's kind of a walk in the park. But these guys are meeting a lot more resistance. So they'll just divert. It's flexible, right? And so it really depends on the situation that's in front of you. Get that rail as close as you can to create the volume necessary to meet the aggregate, but then also the unit capacity, because you want every unit to be filled with as much weight as possible to get what you need and use my favorite word, sustainment, right? To continue to sustain the operations as troops rotate back, and then your second and third echelon then come to the fore. Long answer to a short question.
Now, one more question, Craig, and then I'll pass it off to people with their hands up. Why would the Ukrainian military need special trucks to do their logistics? Why were these different trucks from the usual civilian trucks that they're used for moving stuff around? Why were those provided?
Well, because they have, for several reasons. Number one would be their mission, right? It's a question of mechanics, human versus machine. If I give you a tractor trailer full of artillery shells or full of gas, there's only one way to take that off. Well, actually two ways. There's forklift, or there's human beings quite literally crawling up. If you've ever worked in a feed store in the United States or worked at like a grain co-op, a lot of this stuff is done by hand, some by pallet, but you got to move the bags of grain and horse feed and cattle feed out individually. Some of these bags weigh 60, 70 pounds. That's a lot. Believe me, it doesn't sound like a lot, but you do that for about 3-4 hours, you're going to be pretty broken down. It's going to take a lot of time, and it's super, super inefficient. Now, here in the United States, we do have a lot of forklifts, but that may not be true because you're in the middle of an active battlefield in Ukraine. You may not have a forklift by chance that's strapped to the back of your truck. If you go rent from Sunbelt here in the United States, which is a commercial rental company, they actually give you forklifts that are strapped to the back of the truck in case you need one. That may not be the case. What you get the advantage of with these Western trucks is that you save manpower by palletizing and by using these cranes that you quite literally will do this. It's put into the back of a container. So you have a container that goes on the back of some of these. Some of them are free stocking, means you have it's called free floating. You take a pallet, you shove it to the back, or you load it horizontally. Ideally, you don't load it vertically, a straight line. Loading it vertically is actually very inefficient. You want to load it horizontally and then fill it up that way. It saves about 30 minutes. And then what you do is that you simply drag the pallet forward. The Western truck has a crane that's attached to it that will then lift that pallet with the straps over the top. It'll hook, it'll then drop. You can then drop it into the tactical disbursement vehicle that you need to actually go where it needs to go. And it's organized, it's clean, it's simple, and you just pick it up, drop it in the truck, and then off you go. Or if that's not your mission that day, and your mission is to create a ready reserve, if you will, you can still pull up with these cranes, and you can just Google it. It's United Kingdom logistics vehicles. They'll give you a great breakdown of what they sent. The crane comes over the top, lifts up the unit, and then comes down and then drops it on the ground, and then so on and so on and so on until you have a beautiful array of shells and ammo and gas and everything. So that way, when your logistical vehicle does get there, you just say, "Hey, back it up! Come on, beep 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 beep." You back it up, and then your trucks are it's like an assembly line. Here's the truck that's going here. Here's the truck that's going there. There's somebody with a clipboard. There's somebody talking to the driver. There's somebody coordinating with back logistics to make sure that you have enough in reserve. Hey, by the way, we loaded 5 pallets of 155 today. We're probably going to need 10 more, according to the unit commander. Probably going to need a lot more than that. Put in your order, so to speak. And then as the volume carrier, whatever that might be, goes back, then you load up from there. So that's the advantage of Western logistics versus, say, that grain example I just demonstrated for you. If you're in the middle of nowhere in the United States and you don't have a forklift, but chances are you do, then you got to do it all through human power, which is incredibly, incredibly inefficient.
Yeah, thanks for that, Craig. Craig, just to be clear here, now we know that the Ukrainian army modernized, starting, I guess around 2014. They put a lot of effort into, even before then maybe, they put a lot of effort into modernization. Do you know if their logistics train is fully palletized? Do you know how far along they are in those bearings?
I would say they're not as far along as they'd like to be, but that's just because remember, pallets create its own separate issue. Chances are, if you're in the Army, you always have two things that are just standing around. Number one is men, and number two are probably vehicles of some kind, whether it's a DHL UPS knockoff or whether it's just a Russian conscript from Donetsk who was thrown into uniform, right? They're just kind of sitting around. The problem with pallets is that once you get into the pallet game, then you need the things that help move the pallets. These are forklifts and these are cranes that are on the back of a truck, right? Those two things to fully palletize, you have to fully, quote unquote, you have to mechanize or integrate what it takes to move those pallets and then have the unit to drop the pallet on. If it can be like a deuce and a half that has 3 axles. Sure, you might be able to do that, but some of those are troop carriers because let me just break it down like this. It's one thing to have a palletized system of operation. It's another thing to have the units integrated that help move the pallets onto the conveyor belt of trucks that let it drive off into the sunset, right? And so it's something that we have to recognize that while the Ukrainians are trying to do this, these trucks were so important because I could put out pallets out into the horizon, 1 million pallets full of shells. But what good is it if you don't have the straps that go over the top that link with the buckle that allow you to lift 2 or 3 tons of shells, lift that up high enough to where they can then drop on a truck? It's not about the pallets. It's about the things that help move the pallets to where they go, right? It's all interconnected. So to answer your question, I would say no, but they are getting there and getting there very rapidly.
Well, those donated trucks are going to make a difference. Like those will have cranes and forklifts on the back and so forth, right? Like the Oshkoshes from the UK. I mean that's going to help, right?
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And what it helps most with those, and I can't help but reinforce this point. What it helps most is volume. Volume equals sustainment. This whole game is to deliver a lot of ammunition, fuel, clothes, food, water. That's the name of the game, is volume, 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 volume at speed. I have 50 trucks, 50 vans full of stuff that I can get there very quickly because they're just vans. Those 50 equal the same amount of weight as, say, 10 trucks, right? That makes your logistics operation so much easier when you're just moving 10 trucks at a time, rather than these, like I had pointed out to you, these knockoff DHL, UPS. What would be delivering your bread in a Russian neighborhood and milk is now delivering war supplies. You can have 50 of those. Yes, aggregate that together. Those 50 will carry the same weight as those 10 Western-style trucks. Yes, you are correct. But answer yourself this question. I can park 50 cars in your driveway, and you can take out a piece of furniture and put it into each vehicle, and then the vehicle drives off. Or I can just give you 10 vehicles, load everything into that vehicle, and then off they go. And then once they get to your destination, once they get to your new house, right, then you just have 10 trucks to unload versus 50, and it creates a log jam. I mean, quite literally, we do these equations. It's called traffic jamming, where you have such a density of vehicles in and around your area that it just becomes a huge pain in the ass. Anybody ever try to go to the mall on Black Friday, right, here in the United States? That's the idea. It creates an overwhelming of the system to where you think, well, this is such a huge store. Why can't 100,000 people show up here? Well, because they're all showing up at the same time, right? And it's super inefficient, right? That's kind of where I'm going with this. You take those 50, chop that down to 10, and everything, your life just becomes so much easier, so much simpler, and you don't have to account for 50 things with gas, parts, fixing them, getting gas in them, getting the drivers for them, all the rest of this stuff.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Craig. That's great. We have some speakers that have their hands up. Doman,
let's go to
Good evening from South Africa. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
We can hear you just fine.
Perfect. I have a concern, or I am concerned that there's going to be or there could be a problem with the logistics resulting from the number of vehicles or the number of countries donating different vehicles for transportation. We've seen many different types being donated, which is great. But will this or could this lead to a catastrophe when you've got all this equipment and not necessarily all the spare parts required for all of that equipment? Yeah, that's my question. That's my first question.
I would say yes, but also simultaneously no. And here's why I say that. At the end of the day, war comes down to the individual. Whether you're a general, whether you're a logistician, or whether you're an NCO guiding your fire team on a battlefield, war always comes back to the individual person, right? At times, armies are seen as these big, huge things that kind of act in this great amorphous size, but that's just not simply the truth, right? It's just not the way it actually works. The army is a group, a collection of individuals that is a culmination of their training, motivation, and supplies, right? That's what an army is. And so what the Ukrainians are, and where I'm going with this is that the Ukrainians have proven themselves to be not equal to, but superior to probably not only the Russians, but in some cases actually probably equal to the United States. If you want me to be perfectly blunt about it, equal to the United States in terms of its improvisation. So it's improving itself on the fly. It's improvising, and it's complicated if you are a stupid person who doesn't know how to track this stuff and get it organized. If you are a very intelligent Ukrainian, and there are a lot of them, then what you do is that you have 3 schedules, right? So the way you do it is that you create 3 schedules for 3 different types of mechanized vehicles. So one is an Oshkosh, right? The big daddy of them all, right? The biggest logistical vehicles in the world. You call them big daddies, right? This is daddy in the logistical world. And then you have the Sun, which is the deuce and a halves, which is, your kind of your Western style deuce and a halves, maybe 5 tons. And then you have the smaller vehicles, right? Then you have like kind of your tactical dispersal unit vehicles. Those are like the father, the son, and then the grandson. You take those spreadsheets, and in that spreadsheet, you digitize it. Once you digitize it, you take everything that flows in. You get 100 of these from the UK. Before you even receive that, you create a software program by which, and it's just like what we do here in the West. It's exactly along American lines. You take that system, and every part is registered with a number. Everything that you get is registered. And once you're there and you're part of the supply operation of the Ukrainian army, you're not actively fighting on the front lines. This is your job. You are fighting there, right? The silent war that I spoke about yesterday. You sit there and you are looking at your spreadsheet, and everything is a category, from alternators to axles to tires to windshields to engines to this to that. And you have a warehouse to pull from, and there's a number next to that. Part number 560 Bravo XYZ. We have 3 of those. You would then go into that. That part would be assigned to either a brigade or I know Ukraine doesn't have divisions. I think Konstantin called them operational corps or something to that degree, but they're not westernized along the divisional corps system. And so you would go into that. That would be assigned to you. And then that part, you could then pick from that part, and then you can then drag it down to where you need to go in the next shipment, right? That's quite literally how it works, right? And so this is not complex. Amazon and UPS and FedEx have been doing this for 40, 50 years, right? This is not like a super secret technology. But what's so important about this is, and this is where it gets to the heart of your question, the reason I'm going this deep into detail is because they're doing this in an active war zone. They're doing this under pressure, quite literally under the gun, and they're improvising on the fly, and they're figuring out how to do this stuff. So if this was Russia, I would say, yeah, they wouldn't know how to do this stuff. They're too stupid. They're too top heavy. They don't have the ability to be flexible. But since it's the Ukrainians, I think that this is well within their capacity. They are about as good as it gets when it comes to improvising, adapting, and then overcoming, and then integrating that into an organized core and divisional system. Now, they have been training with the West since 2014, but what they haven't had is this diversity that you just described. But I think that this is perfectly fine for them.
And then, if I may, a follow-on question. Surely NATO, in an ideal world, NATO, all the vehicles will be the same, or adapt from each other, or share common parts. How far along are they in that program? Because we see vehicles from Australia, we see vehicles from the UK, well, many countries. Surely there's just got to be a common chassis and like a NATO standard that they all work off, just to simplify these for whatever the future brings.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just a matter of time, right? Because, I mean, Ukraine has to do this. I mean, think about this. Me and Doman had this conversation 2 weeks ago when we were talking about 155 millimeter shells. People think, oh, that's great. They got M777. Can you imagine? You are in a war to save your country. This is national survival time. This is not mess around and a little skirmish here or there. This is full on nation state on nation state. Can you imagine switching the calibers of your guns that you had prior to the war in the middle of the war? I mean, that logistical operation, quite frankly, as an American, because everything's standard, NATO standard integrated, it makes me kind of twitch a little bit, because the algorithms and the math that goes into that is just, it is overwhelming, the math that is done. And the fact that goes to your prior question, the fact is that integration will happen, but I'll be honest with you, if they can move and switch off of 152s and go to M777s and then back to now 105s, right? Hundreds of thousands of rounds of 105 ammunition, something that was not standard to their military, but now is, just goes to show that all these other problems, as far as the diversity of the units and the different types of units that they have and everything like that, that's small potatoes. If they can pull off an operation of switching caliber guns and unit training from 152s to 155s and now 105s, that's in the middle of a war, in the middle of a fucking war here, with missiles raining down on top of them, and they're able to adjust like this. That alone just speaks volumes. So everything else, I think, just kind of falls in line.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine the guy sends the wrong thing to the wrong place. It's got to be so unbelievably complex, and that's why these guys are just absolutely amazing. And yeah, hope they save Bakhmut. Bakhmut needs support. Thank you. Well, the whole of Ukraine needs support, but
may I
have something on?
Wait a second, please. I
Yes.
may be able to provide you with a bit of good news in that regard, because there's substantially more artillery now available to push back in Bakhmut.
that is such good news.
Can I just add on the general question of standardization? When the idea is you make everything as simple as possible, but no simpler. I believe that quote is attributed to Einstein, but pretty well every clever quote in the world is attributed to Einstein. So I don't know if he said that. And so, for example, it makes sense to standardize NATO on 155 millimeter howitzer ammunition, because there's no great advantage to anyone in using a slightly different size. It would be more difficult, I think, to say that we're going to standardize everybody's armored cars on one platform. First of all, you'd have to choose what platform that would be, which would probably be one company's. The various national defense industries would have something to say about that. But also, these products come in generations and they get used for 20 and 30 and 40 years. And also technology moves on. And if you think of something like Ryanair, big European airline that runs about 400 737-800s,
and they have this fantastic advantage in that every single one of their planes is the same. But eventually, you get to the point where you can't buy a 737-800 anymore, and you have to upgrade to the MAX 8, and now you've got 215 seats instead of 189, and then they're having to adjust now to having two sizes of plane in their fleet. And occasionally that will mean that they'll have a plane break down and they'll have to replace a smaller one, and they have to bump people. And so there is always an opportunity cost in going for that extra bit of standardization that you didn't quite need. So, for example, we've already talked about the fact that the M1A1 tank requires different fuel from most other tanks. That's a cost of running the M1A1 tank, I guess. You have to factor that in. It would be nice if all NATO tanks ran on the same kind of diesel. And presumably when the M1A1 was designed, someone said, well, okay, the cost of running it on whatever extra fuel is worth it. So these things do have a cost, but I think in each case, it's a question of the trade-offs between the technological advance, the benefit you get from that technological advance versus the benefit of standardization. So while 155 millimeter ammunition is a no-brainer, while it is, I think, absolutely amazing that so many countries make platforms that the Gimler's missiles, what's the caliber of the Gimler's missile? Is it 220 or 203 that they all run on? But just as a general engineering and logistics issue, there is this trade-off. The European Union recently announced that it's going to standardize on USB-C connectors for everybody's phone. Now, I'm basically in favor of that, but the skeptics are saying, well, how do we ever get off that? And that is actually an issue, because we can all standardize on USB-C connectors, and then in 2029, 2030, maybe there'll be an application requirement to get 10 gigabits a second out of your phone. And how do we get from that situation to the new situation? So that's the challenge. That's the challenge.
One is, no, it's not comparable. I agree with you generally, but the USB-C connector is already outdated today. And the European Union doing this is just in order to appeal to manufacturers in Europe, specifically in France, who want to have a standard. And that's completely wrong. It should never be done. It's a counter innovation, and it cannot be compared to the 155 caliber. That's a different ballgame. The circumference and design of ordnance has nothing to do with the innovation of electronic gadgets.
No, but my point being that whether or not the USB-C connector is currently outdated, that would in fact reinforce my point, which is that you bring in these standards and then you still have to deviate from them. In my case, I think maybe we have a few years to go with USB-C. You think not many, but the point is there. Whereas it's relatively unlikely that a technological innovation is going to make 155 millimeter ammunition out of date anytime soon. So I think that just illustrates my point, whether or not we agree on that. Yeah. So that's just in response.
No such innovation in ordnance at all.
Yeah. But for example, in vehicles, it's somewhere between the two. It doesn't move as fast as electronics does, but it moves faster than ordnance does. And so for all of these things, there's a trade-off.
But see, Nick, you're making the point that we should not make bureaucrats in charge of military.
I don't think any of us here
The
are.
the EU and France and its wonderful idea of having an EU army should never come to bear. If the French were to run Europe, if the French were to run European armies, if the French were in charge of standardization of innovation in warfare, we'd be down the tubes.
You do know that wonderful old joke about heaven and hell, don't you, Axel? In heaven.
Nick, we all know the joke, but I'd really no. But we know the joke. But what I want to say is, in 3 minutes, we're getting James up, and I really don't want to.
All right, I won't. I'll save the joke. I will come back at 1:30 this morning and tell the joke.
And actually, now Capdom dropped because he had to go away. So in that case, go ahead. Tell us the joke, Nick. It's always good to hear it twice.
Oh no, the old joke. It's in heaven. The cooks are French. The mechanics are German, the lovers are Italian, the comics are British, and it's all organized by the Swiss. And in hell, the cooks are British, the lovers are Swiss, the comics are German, the Mechanics are French, and it's all organized by the Italians. And I've just probably upset every nationality in Europe.
So that's actually a derivation of the same joke as Charles V, who says, "I speak German to my horse, French to my women, Spanish to men," and various other incendiary. That sounds just like what Charles V said.
There is another one of there's a worldwide one about in heaven you have an American. I think an American home, a Brazilian lover, Chinese food, etc., etc. And yeah, you can. Yeah, I think in that one in hell you have an American car.
Depends on the car. In hell, do you need brakes? I think is the question. There you go. Somebody got it. Excellent. Craig, shall we go to one last point about railways?
So Dolman, Bloke, and Axel walk into a bar.
Yeah, by all
What happened
means.
there? No, Badamus, you started. Need to finish.
I think he's trying to make it up on the fly. Poor guy.
No, very well. Craig, in which case, I will ask you this. What's the problem when you have one junction through which all of your rail in an area, in a region runs through? And you can use the example of Jankoy in the north of Crimea as your model case.
Well, then you're a slave to it. It's your master versus the other way around. You're supposed to run logistics. Logistics aren't supposed to run you. And if that's the case, then logistics are running you and telling you what your throughput is and telling you what it is that you can sustain. Rather than doing what you want, you have to do what your logistics, quite literally your roads and your rails and your bridges tell you can do. The old expression is, do you run logistics or logistics run you? And the idea behind these junctions are that if you sever them and strangle them, then nothing gets downriver, right? Imagine a beaver dam blocking you right, or the lake entrance. That river is going to get noticeably smaller because something's blocking it upriver. The rail junction is the exact same thing as blocking something upriver or at the source. Everything downriver is going to die. And so all you have to do is sever off the rail junction, which there are 3 primary ones. No need to get into them. But once you do that, it's a game over, except you don't get to put another quarter in the arcade because you're either dead or in Russian's case, you're probably dead and out of money.
And to characterize this a little bit more detailedly, in Crimea, there's one big cross of rails. Oh no, we have James. I shall leave the Crimea description for another time. Badamus, would you like to co-host?
Can I finish eating?
Welcome, James.
How you guys doing?
Welcome, James. Before we begin, I just wanted to express my deepest condolences for Victor on behalf of many of us here.
Yeah, it's been a tough 2 days. Let's face it, it's not it hasn't been easy for me, but it's it's a tough loss. He's not. I've been with Victor from day one, and not only were we fighting together, but we're best friends, and it's been a little rough. Excuse me. I don't think I've ever cried so much in my life. To be honest with you, it's been a rough couple of days. So I just wanted to say a couple of things about Victor. Number one, he was one of the most compassionate people I've ever had the pleasure to meet. He was a true leader. there's a lot of men that relied on him to lead them into battle, and he did a good job at it, and he did it with compassion, and he did it with grace. He always took care of all the animals that were around our base. He refused to let any food go to waste. If anybody, you saw somebody throwing out some scraps of food, he'd yell at you, just like it, you know, put that in the bag. Let's give it to the animals. He just cared about everything and everybody. And this is a tremendous loss for our men, fighting in the front lines. And it's this is a tough cross to bear for me, but it's not going to stop the fight. We'll keep pushing on. And but he was just such a gentleman and such a gentle fucking giant, of a man.
Well, James, you're part of our extended family here at the Maria Report, and if you need to reach out either online or offline, any one of us, we're here 24/7 for you, brother.
Here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's like I said, been a really tough couple days. Lily, spoke to him like probably a half hour before this happened, and I just want to clarify something. It wasn't a landmine that he hit. It was there were some men that were injured, and he was helping evac them. And whilst he was trying to evacuate these injured men, one of the guys hit a tripwire. So it wasn't just Victor. There was another gentleman that died as well. So we lost 2, and we got 2 seriously injured, during that evac. So, he died a hero.
Just what I was just wondering, what do you think he would say about the work you guys are doing in Ukraine and why it's important?
Look, he always put it on the line. We both do, and we understand that this is a possibility. Everybody does. These guys, they're volunteers. They're not they're not drafted. Everybody there understands that at any given day could be a last day. He understood it. I understand it. The 57 men that I've lost, Victor being the 57th, all understood it. And he's like I said, he died a hero. He's got a 4-year-old boy, 5-year-old boy, turned 5 while we were over here, and a 16-year-old daughter, and a wonderful wife who I've spoken to dozens of times, over FaceTime while I was with him, and an amazing mother who I have actually slept at her house when we were going down line, and she lives in Ternopil, and she was an amazing woman, or is an amazing woman. He was an amazing man, and so I'm going getting on a refrigerated truck right now to go pick up his remains and bring him back to his mom. And it's going to be very difficult for me to face her, because one thing I told her, I said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of your son." And so this is going to be a tough week for me, in every way.
Well, like I said, James, on behalf of ourselves and the audience, our deepest sympathies, and and we'll remember, um, and maybe we could remember him by talking about what has been accomplished over this time, and maybe you could explain to our audience how the fight's going and how you feel about the work that you and your heroes are doing.
Well, these guys, they've, this is a conversation that we had the other night. They've come a long way. It's again, it's not a if, it's a when. Ukraine is going to win. Victor played a big part of that. He was a champ. Listen, the guy didn't have to leave the UK to come, leave his children and his wife to come here and fight. He was a UK citizen. He didn't get drafted. Wasn't held in the country. He did this on his own accord. We've been with each other from day one. It was the first guy I met, and we went down line together. It's when we both got to the Foreign Legion, and the Foreign Legion got bombed. Well, we didn't have any. They didn't know what to do with us, so he made a couple phone calls, and he knew guys from like when he lived in Ukraine, as a child, and they were fighting down line. He was like, "Hey, you want to, why don't we just go with the Ukraine unit?" And I was like, "All right, let's do it." And we went down there together. We were together from day one. We both got here in the same day. So, he's he became more than a brother to me, a best friend, a brother, a fellow warrior. Excuse me.
Take your time, James.
Every time we weren't with each other, and let's say I was going to the rear to get some gear, for the guys, and he stayed up front, we talked every day, probably 5 times a day. All our conversations always ended with, "Hey, I love you, brother. Love you too." And look, I've been through a lot of shit in my life, but I don't think I've been through anything as painful as this. And I'm just going to eternally miss him. He was such a good soul, such a good man, good leader, so compassionate about what he was doing, and treated everybody with so much respect. Everybody loved him. He had a great sense of humor. He was he was a funny fucking guy. I'm just gonna miss him so much.
Tell us about his sense of humor. Do you have some good jokes that he told?
No, it's just it's not we don't sit around. It's not like we're sitting around telling a bunch of jokes. It's just off the cuff stuff. It's just he always knew the right thing to say. We're both pretty funny guys, and we just kind of rolled off each other, and we just had such a good time every time we were with each other, and it's going to be something that I'm going to miss dearly.
Well, on behalf of everyone here, the audience, and all the people at MriyaReport, we're so sorry. We're proud of you and the work you're doing, and the heroes you are, and the hero he was. And I was just wondering if you had to describe something, if there's something that that people hold in common, you know, just like him, what would that be? What is it that you see that is so common between all the
He
people you
just
serve
made
with?
everybody feel at ease. You know, he was an amazing leader, but he wasn't the type of leader that intimidated people. He wasn't the type of leader that made people feel uncomfortable and just barked orders. It was a natural leadership in the sense that he just had a tremendous respect from everyone, which is why he became a high commander so very quickly. You know, when I went back home for a couple months, you know, we were still, when I left the first time, we were still just embedded within a Ukrainian unit, and we were unsignatory to anyone. Well, when I left, you know, he became signatory, and immediately they recognized the quality of leadership that he had, and that quality of leadership made him high commander immediately. When I got back, I was like, "What the hell is going on?" I mean, like, this guy's commanding this whole unit now. You know, when we were just two shithead bullet sponges when we first got there. You know, so it just shows, you know, how good he was and how passionate he was at what he did. You know, he immediately got promoted and promoted and promoted. And, you know, he one day, you know, took me aside and said, "You know, I really don't want all this responsibility." And I just said to him, I said, "Look, Victor, there's a reason why you have this responsibility. You got to own it, accept it. You have this responsibility because people believe in you and your leadership. So take it, run with it, and be the best you can." And he was like, "Yeah, well, I guess you're right." So, you know, it's, you know, he selflessly just ran right into the shit, trying to pull men out who were severely injured. And with that comes, you know, sometimes you're not completely aware of your surroundings, and you hit a tripwire and paid the ultimate price, trying to save his men. So, died a hero. Should be thought of as a hero. Should be treated as a hero. And you know, just last week, you know, we were bringing a bunch of gear. We met up in Kyiv. He left the front lines. We met up in Kyiv. We picked up a bunch of gear to bring back to our men down line. And in the process, we stopped at a post office. And it's about 45 minutes away from where we are, where our base is. And he pulls out this package, and I'm like, "Well, you know, what are you getting?" He was like, I gotta pick something up." Well, what it was a bunch of drawings from his 5-year-old son. You know, making pictures of him as a soldier and telling him how proud he was of him, and this little wooden gun that his son made himself and painted himself to give to his dad, who he adored and held as a hero. This is a 5-year-old. That was a week ago. So when I go pick up his remains, I'm going to make sure I stop and grab all that stuff and make sure it gets back to his son, and just let him know how much his dad loved him. It's he was a pretty amazing man. I don't admire too many people, but I admired him.
Thank you, James. If you have something that you want to put up in remembrance, please DM it to us. We'd be happy to take care of that and put it up for you. You know, if you want a card or something, we'd be happy to, James.
Well, listen, I have a lot of work to do. I still got to go pick up my good friend and bring him back to his mom and bury him. And so I don't know how long this is going to take. There's a very large distance from where I have to go and where I have to bring him back to his mom, and there's going to be a lot of grieving. And I suppose one day soon, I want to start a college fund for his son, and just make sure that boy is taken care of, and have a conversation with him, and just explain to him how much his father meant to me, and how much he meant to his dad.
Thank you, James. James, are you okay taking some questions? We've got some people with their hands up. Is that okay for you now, or?
Yeah, I'll take a couple questions. I'm not going to stay on too long today because it's I'm just like in withering pain right now. But yeah, I'll take a couple questions.
If it's okay with you, it's really up to you.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, Tom, followed by Abdul, and then Nick.
Hi, James. Thanks for joining us. I suppose the first thing I wanted to ask before I ask you another question was if you are just okay talking to us right now, like if you need to be alone with your grief or you need to just be talking to your friends there, like, don't feel that you have to stay. Are you okay talking to us for a little bit?
Yeah. I got a couple minutes in me. It's definitely not easy, but yeah, go ahead. Sure.
Okay. I guess one of the things that can sometimes make these things a bit easier to bear is to remember what it was that the people we love were fighting for. So I wonder, like, Victor must have told you a bunch of times why he was fighting for Ukraine. What was it that brought him there?
Well, I mean, he's Ukrainian born. He's a Ukrainian born man. So, while he was a UK soldier, and he lived in the UK for 22 years, this is his home. So he selflessly just came back and said, "Look, I got to fight for my home." And he was in the UK Army, and they once they found out that he was over here fighting, they had to release him because it was a conflict of interest, obviously, for them. He was. I remember the day he told me. He goes, "Hey, I just got a phone call. They just released me from the UK Army." And I was like, "Well, you knew that was going to happen eventually, so let's just keep pushing on." So, obviously, his mom lives in Ternopil. He's Ukrainian born. He's from Ternopil himself. He came to fight for his country. He selfishly left, the UK Army to come fight for his country. And I think he was a reservist in the UK Army. It wasn't his full-time job. It's no different than being like a National Guardsman in the United States Army. But it's still something he truly believed in, and that's why he came here. And it's each of us had our different reasons for being here, but they were both pure.
Thanks, James. I'm sorry. When you said he was in the British Army, I'd always thought he was British all this time you're talking about him.
No, because I always called him the Brit, but he lived in the UK for the last 22 years. But he's Ukrainian born. He's born in Ternopil, which is where I met his mom when we went down range in Ternopil. Classic babushka. She's an amazing woman. Kind of lives off the land, small house. So welcoming to me when I got there. She was just an amazing woman, and like typical. This is my buddy James, and she gives me a hug, and and she was so amazing. And it's so funny because she had a recent birthday, and I had to go back to the rear to go get some more equipment, a bunch of Kevlar and body armor and stuff like that. And he goes, "Hey, stop by my mom's house and just give us some flowers. It was her birthday, and I was gonna do that, and now, well, now everything just been upended. So now the flowers are gonna be not only for her but for Victor as well. So unfortunately, that's it's gonna be very hard for me to go through this. As a matter of fact, after this, I'm going to after Victor's funeral, I'm going to I think I'm gonna head back to the States for a little while and do some fundraising in Texas and go see some friends of mine over there and just take a little break because this has been a very harrowing experience for me.
Thanks, James. James, just remember that what Victor was fighting for his country, that value can't die because it's in the hearts of every other Ukrainian. Just always hold on to that, okay?
I know.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
I'll-
Sorry for your.
I'll certainly be back. That's for sure. I'm not leaving just yet. I'm gonna, take care of business a little bit over here. Like I said, I'm gonna go to Texas after this, do a little fundraising for Ripley's Heroes, and and maybe start a foundation, super soon for his son, for college, and then take a load off for a second, and then come back a little bit more refreshed, and just try to get past this because this is these are dark days for me right now. I've lost a lot of men since I've been here, but a lot of times it's just guys that had just come into the unit, and you don't really get to know them well. And listen, it's never easy, but Victor and I, we've just been together since the first fucking day, and excuse my language, but since the first day, and we were inseparable, and I got to be honest with you. This is particularly tough for me because I had some stuff coming, to me, I had to pick up a truck and some body armor and some Kevlar, and I was going to bring it back down range, and we had some border issues, and so I got delayed for a couple days, and in any other case, I would have been there with him, and because of this delay, I wasn't able to be there for him and with him, and that makes it particularly hard for me.
James, it's important to remember that this isn't your fault, though. Even if you'd have been there, it might have been exactly the same, or you might have been killed. Don't blame yourself at all for this, man. It's the fucking Russians, okay? It's them.
Yeah, I know. It's just hard to swallow sometimes,
James,
but
by the way,
it's not gonna stop what we're doing here. It's not gonna stop any of these soldiers here. It's not gonna stop all the people who are helping. As a matter of fact, it might reinforce that more than anything. So, that's important to know, and that's it's important to know that I'm not going to stop helping. I'm not giving up because I lost my good friend. It's as a matter of fact, I'm just going to go harder. Go bigger, and again, it's not if, it's when we win this war, and then this is just too crazy. This is something over here. It's a lot to see. It's a lot to deal with, a lot to go through. And these, innocent civilians and or soldiers are dealing with a lot. to try to salvage their company and their country right now, and it's tough for everybody. And I just hope people don't forget what's going on over here. It's too easy to go about your life and not know that there's a country of amazing people being invaded, slaughtered, raped, and pillaged by a bunch of pieces of shit.
James, we're here 24/7. We're here to make sure that people don't forget. We're here to make sure that the world's attention never goes off of this. And the invader is ugly. They're horrible. They're inflicting tragedy after tragedy. But what you and your brothers and colleagues and brothers and sisters are fighting for is beautiful. It's noble, and you are heroes, and we are in awe of you. And we just really appreciate everything you do. If you can continue or taking questions, if you want to drop off, do anything you want, James. Don't worry about the swearing.
I'll take a couple more, but
well, maybe before we go to hands, I had a question here, James. How are the troops dealing with this?
To be honest with you, no one's taking it well. Victor was an admired leader. He was a guy that was highly respected. As a matter of fact, I got a message from his rifle unit from the UK from a gentleman that said that he served with them, and they're all devastated over there, and how much of an amazing guy he was, and how just everything that I say about him, how much of a great sense of humor he had, and how much people respected him. And that's his rifle company over in the UK sent me a personal message, and it's no different over here. So, it's just a tremendous loss, for a larger than life guy,
You mentioned the reason I brought that up because you mentioned the aspects of leadership, and for the listeners, that type of leader, no matter what military you're in, is pretty rare. And the only analogy I have for it is I remember when me and my cousins used to get in shit when we were young, and my grandfather would walk into the room. He wouldn't even say anything. He would just look at you and say, "I'm disappointed." And, we would all burst into tears, and that's the type of respect these people command. Like you don't.
He certainly commanded that type of respect. No one wanted to disappoint him. Everybody was all in. He took a lot of initiative. These guys, they never did physical training or anything like that. He made them do it. They started appreciating it. He made them stronger. He made them better. He made them mentally tougher. He made them better soldiers in every way. And they loved him for it. Rather than, griped about it, they just loved it being better because of him. And look, he, we did this together, and but he was in the shit a lot more than me because I kind of have a dual role right now, and I'm trying to get all this equipment, all this stuff. So when I leave downrange, he's the guy that's always there, So and he was beloved, and every time I went back to the base and I went back downrange, they'd be new guys because we had guys get killed, and he'd be like, "All right, here's the new guys," and introduce me to all the new guys, and this is a revolving door. It's less people think that we're just a bunch of guys. And there's new faces all the time because men get killed. So I had to meet new men all the time. You got to replace them. This is a company of men that are fighting. And when you lose 20 men, well, there's 20 more men that come in. And he would always introduce me to everybody and interpret for me. If people didn't, a lot of these guys either had very broken English and or no English. He always would just bring me around and make sure everybody knew who I was and tell them, hey, this is James Vasquez. He's we've been fighting since day one, and he's an American over here, and he always called me the Yankee. Yankee. That's how he addressed me. Hey, Yankee, come here. I'm like, hey, Victor, you can call me James from time to time. You know that? But he called me the Yankee, and he always made sure that I felt comfortable in a foreign place. With where there's a lot of language barriers, and just made sure that I always felt comfortable and everybody felt comfortable with me. He always bridged that gap. And honestly, I don't even know what I'm going to do without him, because it's just never going to be the same.
Hey, James, this is Craig. I just wanted to say something. I was a part of an honor guard detail that dealt with soldiers that died between 2004 and 2009. And I attended many a funeral and folded many a flag in my experience. And one thing always stood out to me when we were having a non-denominational funeral. One of this soldier's brothers came up, quite literally like his brother, came up and he just gave his eulogy, and he ended with this. He said, "All men's souls are immortal, but the souls of the righteous are immortal and divine." That stuck with me for forever. So Victor's not gone. He's standing right beside you. It's always going to be there, and there's always going to be a good influence on your life. And I can say that from experience. Not maybe not of him, but of what you're going through.
Well, I'd like to think that. And I'd like to think that he'd be with me forever, and one day we'll meet again.
Hoorah.
Abdul?
James, I just wanted to convey my deepest condolences on the loss of your brother. I got the news this afternoon on Twitter, and it was the video of the two of you in the car, moving to the music, where you saw the.
That video was when we first were going down range. That was the first day we were in the car,
And James, that video was posted before. I'd seen it before.
Yeah.
And I remembered that video because I was like, oh my God, these are real brothers. And when I heard the news today, I was devastated. Honestly, I was devastated because that video stuck with me. And that coming up today with that news really, really, I felt so sorry for you. And I really am so sorry.
Thank you.
The way you've spoken about him has even touched me more. And I just wanted to tell you how sorry I am. But I also wanted to say, and I just want to echo what Tom was saying. Victor did not die in vain. He was fighting for the freedom of his country, and he was fighting for our freedom. I am indebted to him, like all of us are. And sorry, I don't have more words to say, but I just wanted to pay my respect and wish you all the best. And I wish you all the strength to get through this difficult time. And I wish Victor's family all the strength to get through this difficult time. All the best, all the best. And you know what? He will be immortal and divine. Craig is right. Thank you.
Well, there's no doubt about that. Thank you.
Nick.
James?
Yes.
I'm sorry I let you down when you tried to get hold of me earlier. I couldn't do anything. I was at a meeting. It's my mistake. I have no words of my own. I am speechless. But if you allow me, I'll quote two stanzas of Lawrence Binion. With proud thanksgiving, a mother for her children, Ukraine mourns for her dead across the land. Flesh of her flesh they were, spirit of her spirit, fallen in the cause of the free. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. He'll never be forgotten in my mind and my heart, that's for sure. It's I'm not even close to being out of this pain, but
You are not alone. You were closest to him, but many people will support you and will support his family.
yeah, I believe that. I agree. I just yeah, I'm just gonna make sure his son is taken care of and his family's taken care of, and I'll never forget him as long as I live.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Just let us know, James, if you need to go. But I think Nick was next, and he wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'll take a couple of questions, and then I'm gonna have to get off because I really need some rest, and got a migraine right now. I just it's been a tough couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, just all my condolences, man. I put my hand up to ask what your immediate plans were. It sounds like you've got a plan for the next few days. If talking about it is helping, then I hope that you have people you can talk to, talking, not typing, in the next day or two.
I have a great support system.
Okay.
I have a lot of people who care about me over here and back home, and that are and all you guys who write me these wonderful messages on Twitter and these condolences. So that's a big deal. It makes it I'm not gonna say it takes the edge off, but it's it gives you a sense of it makes the grief a little easier. I don't know if I can even say that yet, but I have a good support system. I have a lot of good people around me. Since this has happened, I've been on the phone with Rip Rawlings like constantly, and he's always got great words of wisdom. I got good people, back home that are, have amazing things to say, and everybody seems to be saying the right thing. It doesn't make it any easier, but at least it keeps you a little more preoccupied than just sitting here alone and and just dying inside. So yeah, I've got a lot of good people around me, so it's it makes it a little easier, but there's still some work to do, and I just got to go. I got to just go get his remains and bring it back to his mom and So it's going to be a tough several days, but you know, it's never going to be easy losing my best friend. You know, so you know, he was a pretty special man, and a lot of people know that. A lot of people know that.
I think everyone here knows that now. Okay, take care, but make sure. I would say make sure that you've got someone you can call and talk to when you need to say something, when you need to get something out. And if you know, there'll always be listening ears here.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing this with us. It's been a privilege to listen to you.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll talk soon. You know, obviously, I got a lot to do and a lot to deal with in the next few days. So next time I get an opportunity to talk to you guys, I'll let you know. All right.
Absolutely, James. Thanks for coming by. And I say again, you have all our signal numbers in the back here. So if you, any time of the day, any time of the night, you just hit any one of us up and we're here.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You guys have, you know, you guys have been a good friend of ours, Ripley's Heroes, and you know what we're trying to do, and very supportive. So that's why I talk to you guys first, and I don't even know that I'm ready to talk to anybody else anytime soon. I had a lot of UK news agencies contacting me and wanting to talk, and I don't think I'm ready for that right now. So but you know, it's this is a comfortability factor for me talking to you guys. So you know, I know you guys, and you guys have been great. So I think right now this is as far as I'm going to go with doing any interviews with anybody else until you know, I kind of get through this process here.
I think that's an incredibly insightful choice, because you have some fame, you are well known as one of the faces of the American involvement in the war, and yeah, I would. It seems to me that right now you need to take what you need. I don't like saying that, but take away the public property part and just be yourself until you're ready to come out and use what you've experienced for the good of everybody.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be offline for a little while. I'm going to be going dark for a bit. Got a lot to take care of. So it's, you know, the only reason why I started tweeting this stuff out this morning is because I found out that he was, you know, it was already in the media, and I just wanted to kind of, you know, throw it out there. I wasn't going to say anything about it, but it didn't take too long for it to get out. So I think I'm going to be I'm going to be pretty quiet for a few days, for a while, and you know, just kind of go through this process, go get him, make sure that you know, we give him a proper send off, and you know, and I just need a little time for myself right now.
Absolutely.
Like I said, James, I'll DM you in the back end there, and Tom here is actually our resident psychologist. So if you can talk to me, you can talk to Bloke, and we're non-commissioned officers, so you know, we can do dirty fart jokes all day long. But if you really want to talk to somebody that, you know, about headspace and timing, you know, Tom's kind of the guy, right?
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the offer. You know, and I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate what you guys do, and you know, keep up the good work, and you know, just make sure that this, you know, all this stuff doesn't fall to the wayside. Keep doing a good job that you guys are doing, and you guys are doing an amazing job. It's a very selfless thing what you guys are doing, having information going out there 24/7, you know, pro bono and voluntarily. So it's so I salute you guys too.
All right. Attention. All rise. 1 minute of silence for a fallen hero. In nomine Patri, in nomine Sancti, Spiritus Sancti.
See, if
Resti
Victor,
in pacem.
if Victor was here, he would have interrupted that 1 minute of silence and made a joke. So that's the type of guy he was. So that's how much. That's the funny guy he was. He
I
would
should not
interrupt.
have done
He
that.
would interrupt his own moment of silence.
James, you're a star.
James, I'm desperately trying to bring up Yehuda. He's having difficulties, but then again, Yehuda can contact you on the back end as well. I've been trying for the last 4 or 5 minutes to bring him up. And
No worries, no worries.
All right, gentlemen. Slava Ukraini.
All right, Heroyam Slava. Thank you guys.
Heroyam Slava.
Heroyam
Slava
Slava.
Nazi.
Thanks for having me, and I'll talk to you guys as soon as possible.
Thanks, James.
All right.
See you on the flip side.
All right. Bye-bye.
Tim,
Yep.
what do we say about the fallen?
Is James still there, or is he gone?
James,
You
can you hear us
just
still?
Oh, he left. Okay, yeah, sorry, I had mic problems and I just got in. Very sad and somber moment, no doubt. And it only highlights the need for us to circle the wagons, continue to keep promoting Ukraine and fighting Russian disinformation. That's the way it has to be. As you know, just housekeeping, getting a lot of requests about a certain chatterbox who's making a lot of noise and making accusations and threats. This is the person who's gone to different media and attempted to smear us and others, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Someone can lie all they want. It doesn't really matter. Why don't we dignify this person? It must really upset them that we don't talk about them. We don't want anything to do with people like that. And that's it. It's just that simple. I wish I could say more. It is, I suspect, a police matter and a very serious one at this point. So that individual can, deal with the repercussions on their own. Lying to reporters to get a story, just to attack us. He's done it at least 3 times already. He's going for 4. I know a lot of, and I've got a lot of DMs saying, "What? We're defending you. This guy's lying. Why aren't you saying anything?" I get it. It pisses people off. But the expression, if you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. There's one with pigs and mud, and I don't remember it, but you get the general gist of what I'm saying. There's no point. We're in it to win it. Guys like James, Malcolm Nance, Rip Rawlings, Rip these heroes, and the group of people we work with all across government of Ukraine, all those cool cats that are doing great things to help Ukraine. We want to focus on the good that can be done. Unfortunately, there'll always be detractors. Every organization, it's funny, every organization we've worked with and we talk to says there's always one or two people in each org that kind of make it all about themselves, and then they get kicked out, or people leave. In our case, we just picked up and moved to our new platform, and we're doing our own thing. I'm not sure how that could be so offensive to someone. We're literally doing our own thing. We will not work for free for someone else so they can, do what they want and make it about them and make money. We're not interested. So thank you for all of those who ask. We're not going to address, slander and defamation. If it comes to a legal issue with certain individuals who want to pursue that route, it's a right. But let it be known that for those who think you can lie and make egregious claims against individuals and stuff like that, eventually it's going to come back to you. It just won't be here. We're not interested. We're here to talk to everyone who's coming in. We want to speak the truth about Ukraine, want to promote it. We have had the head of Ukrainian Railways in a few times recently. Major source of information. Ukrainian fighters, Ukrainian lawyers and doctors, real ones. We've got all sorts of qualified people on the ground who come to share their experiences with you. And obviously we have the analysts from around the world, Ukrainian analysts. We had Roman Sharameta recently, and that was a great conversation. We're just going to keep bringing you all the good stuff that we can bring you, and that's the best way to fight disinformation from outside and from within. And we don't want to turn this into this is what happened and he said, she said. I think the proof's in the pudding. I think people can tell by the quality of people that we bring in and the conversations we have, that we're here to really blow it, like knock it out of the park. So I do, again, thank you everyone for continuing to listen and continue to support the MriyaReport. We are a collection of volunteers. We do not collect money. We do not solicit money. None of our hosts will ask you for a PayPal to pass on to someone else. We don't do that. So if you hear of anyone doing that, I would be very suspicious and concerned. If you want to report that you thought you sent money to an organization, but you sent it to a person, and you want to know what happened to it, contact that organization. Find out if your money actually got there. We don't have anything to do with that, and that's why we don't touch money, because of this exact reason. However, some people didn't learn that lesson and don't know that other people won't tolerate it, but we won't tolerate it. Everyone who's in this is in it for their own personal reasons and for the cause of good justice, and we keep doing it every day. So thank you all again. If you could retweet the space, let people know you're here, we'd super appreciate it. And that's all I have to say about that. So to the many people who've DM'd me, I apologize if I can't get back to everyone. I know there's a lot of chatter by one individual. There's going to be an article apparently, that's going to talk about how horrible, blah blah blah, from a very small newspaper, and I don't really care because all of us who are here know what we've done. We have our receipts, we have our text messages, and we have the audio. And I don't think anything. Well, I'm confident nothing we've done is anything bad at all. Unfortunately, there are people that send fake tweets and play all sorts of silly, horrible games to get a news story, and that's fine. So all we say is Slava Ukraini, and the next. Thank you, and that's what's important. All right, let's bash on.
May I just add one thing? Can I add one thing to what you just said? Please.
Absolutely, whatever, man. Yeah, it's your right.
No, it's yours. It's our own. This is our home, our community. And we are here on a serious matter. Yes, we can have levity. We have banter. From time to time we vent. But everybody here in this large, very, very large and ever-growing community is serious about this. That's the main difference. And we just heard from someone who lost his war buddy, his best friend in this war, who sacrificed himself, who was real. I dare anyone to come up and challenge us on us being serious, solid, and real. Not as long as I am here. Not as long as any one of our moderators are here.
And I will tell the audience, I actually specifically, every moderator in here, almost all of them, wanted to respond out of just sheer anger. I was often the target, along with some others, and I asked them, please don't, because this is what fuels the sociopathic mind. I don't do it for, if you're doing it for me, please don't. But you know, I feel bad because I know a lot of them wanted to share and stuff. To say that they're part of a great organization which does great things and it's selfless and no one's getting money. In fact, we're all losing money to be here. Every single moderator gives up a lot of money to be here. There are people that would go and buy a brand new $2,000 iPhone so they can run the host account. No one's paying them for that. They're just paying for it out of their own pocket. This is the real deal. This is about as altruistic as you can get. And I know they're really hurt by these accusations. But the funny thing is, it's coming from people who are soliciting money themselves. They're attacking the absolute 100% charity, and they're saying that they're better. And meanwhile, they, in one vein, they'll say, you know, we're scammers and donate money to this personal email. What? It's you know, I don't think we need to respond to that. I think anyone who can think can see. But I do want to thank like Axel, especially, and Doman and Battle Moose, and there's a ton of people here that really put in. Tim, looking at the list I see now, that put in dozens of hours a day. Well, not dozens a day, but 10 hours, 12 hours a day. If not, they're on standby. We've got Tyler in the back, or, you know, other people, and, you know, Bob and Susie. Make a bunch of fake names if people don't want to be known, who will message, say, yep, we have a gap from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Who can do it? They're doing it for the listener. It's the only reason they want Ukraine to have a voice online all hours of the day. And that's beautiful. And so it's really incredible. And I do apologize for a lot of them, because I would tell them, let's not get into it. Let's not get into it. And I got a message saying, don't even mention it. There's no need to draw attention. I have to mention it. I have to mention it because I do get, especially in the last week, a lot of messages because of the poop storm that this person is engaging in. I know it might feel good, but at the end, no, you can't. You don't wrestle with pigs. You're just gonna get muddy. That's it. I just got it. I remembered. So it doesn't. You know, my only the sadness I feel as one of the moderators asked a lot of moderators not to get involved, but they wanted to really send one like zingers over and proof and this and that. If you want to find the answers, it's there. The answers are there, rather. But we just bash on. We're going to end up doing some report. Can't wait to do my update. I got a military update. I'm going to collate 4 days of updates. I'll try to touch on it day by day. I'll collate them maybe 2 days by 2 days, and we'll have a really nice picture of how the ground has changed, what it means in each specific region of in the combat areas there. And then we'll extrapolate what it could mean politically. So that's what I want to do, and I hope everyone else is keen on it. We're gonna get Chuck and we're gonna get John Spencer on. It's gonna be same old, and hopefully CJ can get up here. I do want to thank everyone, sorry, just reading some more of these messages. Yeah, thanks for all the support, everyone, and don't worry about us. Goodness and righteousness always, makes its way to the top. That's what I believe. Even if there are people that want to do silly things and lies and really bad things. I shouldn't say silly, just egregious things. I think we need to remember that we have right on our side, and we'll continue to bash on, and that's it. So I'll drop that, and we'll move right on. Axel or Battle Moose, sorry, Bloke. I'm going to start doing my homework.
Bloke and Battle Moose, may I go?
Yeah, go ahead. Don't think that is far off the order anyway, Prince. So go ahead.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I just wanted to take a moment and reflect on James being here. And what hit me about James being here is he popped in and he said, I want to come on in about an hour, and we put him right on. But what James came here for was the support he knew that he could get for the hardest thing that he's going through right now. this community has been created and has become many things to many people. We cover many, many subjects, but what we have created here is something where people on the ground who are going through the worst days of their lives can pop in and say, I'm comfortable talking to you guys and you guys only. I don't want to talk to the media. I want to talk to you because I know you are going to be there for me. You are going to support me. You are going to give me the love I need right now. And we've seen that with James today. And if we think about a couple of other instances, not as intense as James, but the firefighter from Kharkiv, Roman, popped in the other day to say, yeah, we had those big, huge explosions where they hit our infrastructure, but I'm okay. I'm okay. And I wanted you guys to know that I'm okay. We have created an information space that gives so much information on the battle space, on the geopolitics, on the economics, but also on the emotional support and love for the people who are on the ground and fighting to defend their country and fighting to defend a country that isn't even theirs, but they knew it was something that they had to go and do because it was the right thing they needed to do, like James. So I just want everybody to think about that. You know, we're here 24/7, and James knows, and many other people on the ground there in Ukraine know that they can come in here any time of the day and say what they need to say, and we will be there for them, and we will respect them, and we will love them, and we will walk the journey with them. I was just dying to say that, but it wasn't appropriate to say while James was here. I just wanted to remind all of us now that James has gone on to grieving the way he needs to, but you know he will pop in here if he needs us. And it's important to keep that in mind because we do many things for many people in many different ways, and we can't forget that.
Thank you, Heather. I forget the order here, but I think we'll go with Lote Heather. That's other in French. Lote Heather and Chris.
Hi, I just wanted to thank Yehuda for what you said. I want to thank all of our moderators, all of our speakers. Again, I will not put up with anybody slagging my Canadian military. And I won't put up with anybody slagging anybody else's military other than the Russians. Listening to James, when my husband came home, he looked at my face and said, "Who died?" And I said, "Nobody I knew." And then he listened. This is a righteous fight. This is a righteous space. And I'm not going to say any more except Yehuda. I survived the bill support. I survived the sailor. I survived the catches the fish and takes them home to Liza. And I'm going to step off now. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Heather. I was unaware that Yehuda was from the East Coast. Chris.
It was a shibboleth I was going to test Brian with to confirm he was actually from the East Coast, and because his accent was so different to me, so I thought if I asked him to finish the lyrics of that.
Oh, you played your finish the lyric song, or
yes.
Again? Yeah, gotcha. Okay, Chris, comment question. What you got?
Hi, folks. Listen, I just want to say I've been here a dog watch, as they say in the Navy, but you guys are just absolutely amazing. So I don't know what's gone on exactly. I would suggest that, maybe we just need a little bit more detail, because in case people get contacted or see it or whatever, but don't worry about that now. But, or listen, I'm in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is the absolute worst place on the internet for trolls and for people that will say things about you that are not true, right? So I've had to go through a number of situations with so-called protectors of the internet, right, where I've had to protect my reputation, and I've had to go to police, and I've had to go to the courts, and I've had to go, through everything, right? So, never doubt yourself. In the same way that I said earlier on, if Russians put something out, assume it's a lie, right? If people say something about you, it's not true. You all know that it's not true. I don't, I don't know any of you, but I already consider you my brothers and my sisters. That was, to be there when James came. I'm going to cry as well, probably, but to be there when James, who I've been following for a long time, right? I've been following James since he first went to Ukraine. To be in a place where, as has just been said, the one place that he felt safe to come in that situation, man, that's just amazing. Amazing. I mean, I'm like having my dinner and I'm listening to what's going on here, and all I want to do is, go and get away and, be with you guys, right? And then, I've stood up for a minute. I left the Navy, in the 80s and that. I haven't stood to attention and saluted anybody since that time. But I've got up and I've, it's just ridiculous. Good job nobody came in the room. But, I've just got up and I've stood there for the minute and I've saluted and I've cried, So, like, just never doubt yourselves, guys, right? These people, they're always trying to knock you down. Always trying to knock you down. So, like I say, I've been here a dog watching that, but you guys are just absolutely amazing what you've done. And I don't know whether he's online at the minute, but I just sent to Domen. So again, guys, you don't know, but where I live in the UK, there's a place called the National Memorial Arboretum. It's for people that have died in service to their country after the Second World War, and it was built because there's no place to memorialize people that had died after the Second World War. I literally live. I could throw a stone across the fields and that to the National Memorial Arboretum, and do look it up. It's the most beautiful place, and I promise you, right, that I am going to get Victor a memorial place in the National Memorial Arboretum in the UK. And when you guys come over to the UK, you can see it, right? So I know the guy that started, Lieutenant Commander that I was in the Navy with, that started National Memorial Arboretum. So I would like to find out where, Victor is in the UK, and just, somebody could just, like, I don't need to speak to James directly or anything like that, but, just give me some information that will help me literally go down the road and speak to them and say, look, I need a place here for fallen heroes in Ukraine. Right. And there's this place, if I just describe it to you, right, and particularly maybe for the ladies will understand this, right, that there is everything in this place. It started off as a, memorial to, service people that had died after the Second World War. But there are places in there for everybody you can imagine. Train drivers, coal mine workers, and there's even a place there to unborn babies. It's become an incredible place. And so I've sent a picture of it to Domain. If anybody else wants it, then let me know. And so I think that's all I want to say, but I'm privileged to be here.
Thank you for those kind words. We have a full panel right now, so if you want to speak, please raise your hand and we'll get to you in order. If not, if you have no intentions of speaking, please cycle down, or I'm going to have to start cycling people down.
And Chris, can you send me a message? You said you do cybersecurity. I wouldn't mind having a chat with you. That'd be interesting. If you could send me a DM.
I will do. Sorry, who's that?
Yehuda.
Yehuda. Okay, mate. I will do. I'll find you and I'll send you a DM. Yep. Okay.
We have Noah and then Prince. And then actually, I'm going to nix that. I'm going to go to David because David has the worst connection. He has like potato connection. And we probably only have him up here for the next 20 seconds. Go ahead, David.
This David.
You're the only David up, buddy.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Ballinmus. I appreciate your hosting and bloke as well. Hot mic there, somebody. MriyaReport. I appreciate you putting the facility
Chris,
on.
you got a hot mic there, buddy.
I'd just like to encourage everybody to retweet and share out the space. Visit MriyaAid.org and give what you can. It is the most reputable charity. I wanted to come up and speak in support of this facility. I was much moved by how Chris has spoken to us just now. And thank you very much, Chris. I hope you enjoyed your dinner, and I very much enjoyed learning about the National Memorial Arboretum. Thank you. I wanted to just lend my voice in support that I've seen this voluntary organisation give birth to itself and evolve and get better and improve. And I've also been witness to people maligning and trying to take away and trying to create personal fame in 15 seconds of popularity and using the MriyaReport as some kind of a whipping post to achieve that. And I think the test has been proven in time and by the quality of people who come here and speak. People are not, average people are most often underestimated, but I can say I'm proud to be in this community that there's a low tolerance for bullshit and a very high threshold is allowed for everybody to come and speak. Everybody who comes in and shares and speaks their mind and what they may think is true is welcome. Whether they feel validated or not afterward is something different, but everybody I have seen here is welcome. So I want to say I'm very appreciative for this community. I'm going to stay hanging out here because I think it is in good work and is going only from strength to strength, doing good work for people who need help. And so I'm just happy to be here, and I do feel privileged as well. And thank you for putting it that way, Chris. It's so true. I feel so lucky to have found this group of people who share and educate and swap ideas and have space for other people and listen to other views. It's a total privilege, and I really am very thankful for being here, and encourage people to retweet and share the space. Bring a friend, spread the word, and thank you very much. Visit MriyaAid.org.
Yeah, with that being said, please do us a solid and retweet the space. It does all kinds of good things with the algorithm there and bring more exposure to those that may not be digesting the proper proper information, what's going on in Ukraine right now. What do we got here? No, I think it was Noah, Prince, and then Norman.
Yeah, hi, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right, so I got a little bit of an update from the front from the Kharkiv region. Apparently, the Ukrainian army has captured a Russian T-90M in perfect condition. I'll put the tweet from the Defense U Twitter into the group. They're even though their Twitter is known to be the best in the business. So what we don't know about, we pretty much don't know a lot about this tank, but from what I was seeing on my feed is that apparently a Ukrainian tanker reviewed it and said it's what the T-72B3 should have been. It's comparable to the Leopard 2A7, but yeah, that's pretty much an interesting update. It's the newest version of the Russian tank. So people are saying that the
yeah, it's not the first time we saw this thing on the battlefield. In fact, Yehuda and I did a little dance when the Ukrainians sent out a video of a T-90 being taken out with a Carl Gustav, because frankly, in 20 years I was in the Canadian Forces, I never thought that thing could take out the broadside of a barn. And there it was, not only taking out the T-90, nearly cutting it in half. But yes, we did see that the Ukrainians had captured the T-90 this morning. That was
yeah.
It came up a few hours ago. Thank you for that. That's still
Yeah, I was also seeing stuff saying that the stuff around the tank is some sort of like heat protection, but I'm like, that kind of looks like tarp to me. So I'm not 100% sure that that's some new, armor protection system. It just looks like it's basically like a tarp you put over like a baseball field or something. So
Well, it's designed to protect the tank thermally, right? From thermal identification, right?
Oh, okay. So I learned something new.
Masket's signature, but all it did was really maybe make for body bag material.
True.
Yeah, I think we have to remember that the Russians, well, not even Russians, Russia watchers who grew up in a generation where Russia was a thing, they were always talking about the virility of the Russian armored corps and how strong, just God forbid, and wait till they get these ones. Oh, and those are the bad tanks. Wait till the good ones, the better ones come out, and then wait till the better ones come out. I think we have to accept. And what makes us know better? Well, we don't know better. We know just by facts, by things we get reports from, by videos and pictures from Ukrainians themselves showing us. And we just, you can't, if it walks like and talks and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. I mean, if it's a bad piece of kit, it's a bad piece of kit. And, other people would come in, not to pick on Patrick. I know he talked a lot in the beginning about Russia's capabilities, and he was being sober and cautious. But all the other tanks they have in storage, I mean, it's like saying we have 900 million people in old person's homes. Wait till we conscript them. There's not much to talk about. 2,000 plus tanks. Where are all their other tanks? I don't know. They're putting them onto trains and trying to fix them, and I don't know, taking them out of museums. I have no idea. But I don't see. There's no great redoubt of Russian tanks sitting somewhere just waiting for just the right moment when they're really needed. And they were really needed 6 months ago, and they're not out. So whatever the T-90 is or it isn't, I'm sure it'll get dissected and shared with the world. And the Russians, their first guard tank army, their premier force destroyed, wiped off the face of the earth, in effect, by what would only be described, or could only be described, as substandard Ukrainian equipment. Yeah, it just adds more color to it, and I appreciate it. But I mean, that's where we're going with this. I mean, there's not much left. There's not much they can do, and the Russians keep there. I still wonder why there are still people trumpeting, even if you are. I understand the person who believes the West bad, even if they're in the West horrible, Russia good. I can understand those who hold water for Putin not wanting to believe that there is no mighty Russian army or mighty Russian tank corps. But what about the pundits who are pro-West, who keep saying, "Got to be careful, don't count, not over till the fat lady sings." We get it, but she's been singing for a long time in Russia, and nothing's happening. Nothing's changed. The results are still the same, and that's where we're at. So it's good. It's good to notice, and thank you for that. rock and roll. I'm not gonna do an update. I gotta do other things, so I'll do my update a little later. So I will stick around a bit. It's I missed you all.
Prince.
We missed you too, Yehuda. I know I've missed you. I've thought about the fact that you haven't been around much the last couple of days, and I just wanted to throw you some supporting fires. You know, I haven't been paying attention to the drama, but I know that it's happening, and it's inappropriate. And I admire your response to moderate the moderators to not react, because ignoring is probably the best thing you can do in that situation. But there are those of us who listen to this space and have gotten, you know, invested in this space, and who have learned to love people like you and Axel and Battle and Bloke and all of the co-hosts that we listen to every day. And you know, there are times, you know, something random last night was happening, and I just popped up but didn't say anything. And then one of the co-hosts said, well, where did you go? I said, well, I came up for supporting fires because I thought you might need it, but you ended up not needing it, so I dropped down and went on to do other things. So we're all here. We all have each other's backs. And you know, if you said the word, we know a bunch of people would be there right behind you and right behind your back. You know, Yehuda especially, I know you and I have exchanged some personal messages, and you know how much I admire you for many things. And I just wanted you to know that we got your back, and we've got the back of the co-hosts and the moderators and the people who run this space, because we see every day what you guys go through. I've suggested a couple times as a joke that, you know, we might want to create a support group. Tom, you might want to think about creating a support group for the spouses and the children of the people who spend so much time devoted to this space. You know, Battle Moose's children, Axel's children and family, Yehuda's children and family. These guys might need a little bit of support, but we appreciate it, and we see the sacrifice that you all make. And I'm sorry that this is happening, and it's extremely inappropriate. It's awful, but we've got your back, and I admire your desire to respond to it in the most responsible way you can. And I want to say thank you.
No, I thank you. Listen, I still get messages. Don't talk about it. So we'll talk. More people say talk about it. Why should we talk about the details when every minute we spend talking about a bad actor or someone who's misguided or obviously conflicted and torn is a minute taken away from talking about things that can help Ukraine. You know, there are people that have popped into this room out of nowhere who are very big donors, and they've said, wow, I loved what I heard, and I gave money. And it might not be, you know, $1 million. It might be 1,000. It might be 10,000. It might be 5,000. So why should we miss that opportunity to help Ukraine because of a petulant individual who has no morals and wants to lie about people? I know it would feel good for me. I'd love to nothing more than to pour my heart out and tell you just how sad I am that someone could betray our trust, could steal from us, could lie about us, could do all of these horrible things. It would feel great to say that and, you know, get it off my chest. And my wife is furious. The name is not allowed to be said in my house anymore. But that's me being selfish because that's taking away from those who are new to this space. I'm always looking. People ask me, I'm not interested in I don't need to prove myself to the people that already know me kind of by proxy or know all the moderators by proxy. I'm looking for that 100 persons that come in each hour that are new. And we want them to know what's going on. If they didn't know, there are people that don't know. They're not evil. They're not stupid. They're just unaware. And we need to spend our time focusing on that. So I do thank you for that. But I want to keep talking about those good things about Ukraine and those things that make people want to come back and listen. Trust me, when this war is over, it's a different story. You know, the person used to say to me, "Oh, at midnight, the truth will be known." When this war is over, the truth will be known, and we have receipts and we have everything. And that, you know, I don't think there's a country. He can move to North Korea maybe to find a better life because I don't think he'll be able to hold his head up with any without shame. from all the horrible things he's done. But in the meantime, we're fighting the Russians. We're fighting for Ukraine. We're going to dedicate our time to promoting Ukraine. Full stop. And that's how I look at it. I hope that makes sense.
A friend of mine often says 100%.
Oh, I thought you were going to say more. I get it. Haha. All right. Let's rock and roll. Can't wait.
Norman is next.
Mic is up.
Yes, 5x5.
Nice. Well, hello guys. It's not my first time in the space, but it's the first time that I'm speaking with you. We've talked a lot, in the last 4 hours and a half that I've been in the space. Just wanted to say hi. By the way, Bloc Québécois, clever name. I'm myself from Quebec. So yeah, what I wanted to say is I think that would be a good idea to probably have a public relation team. For future, I think, problems. As you guys have spoken about, people smearing and everything. Due to the strength of your group, I don't think now that it's necessary. As you said, truth will come out. Now, when it comes to the media, I think that participate into the smearing. I think that ourselves, Norman Brigade, has been a very good example of how it can kill a momentum when it comes to donations, reputation, etc. By the way, we've been a unit that has been fighting in Ukraine since February. So when the war started, we just crossed the border. We organized ourselves the best we could, and then we jumped into the fight. Right. So we never had, I think, the time to get like a public relation team, to talk with the media, to rectify, some narratives. But what is concerning is in our situation, how our own media, like back home, participated in reporting like news, lies, and they've done it happily. So as I said, I don't think that this could apply to you right now, because you are a very strong group. You guys are very well organized. You have like a tons of supporters. You're doing an amazing job. It's fucking awesome. Sorry for the language. But yeah, guys, keep doing what you're doing, and it's great. Also, if I can speak about it, we're talking about drones. There was a fella here. He was talking about developing drones. I think what is important when it comes to the technicality of the drones that we're using on a battlefield, from my experience, I think that when people are talking about implementing artificial intelligence in these drones, there's a lot more to take into consideration, than just pushing your drone to recognize, different targets. You have to heavily digitalize basically your environment, the battlefield. Your drone must have the capabilities to know where the troops are. That means basically implementing on each element. I'm talking about infantry, battle vehicles, command posts, etc. You have to feed your drone with these kind of informations. So when it comes to developing the software, it's one thing, but when it comes to developing the hardware, that's another thing, right? Because you need the computing power, you need the capabilities of the optics, right? Do you want to send your drone, over enemy lines, or you just want your drone, to monitor what's going on in your direct area of operation? And that takes a lot of money. That takes a lot of time. It creates a lot of problems when it comes to mobilizing resources and the time. Okay, this is like time is essence of everything. So on the battlefield right now, what we need is light drones, highly performant with good computing power, with thermal capabilities that can carry modified ammunitions that you can drop on the enemies. Different drones also with very good optics that can be used to monitor the enemy. You need also good communication also to relay all the flow of information from your unit to the other unit or battalion next to you on the front line in the area of operation. Because I don't think that everything is so localized, but with drones you have a good opportunity to see what's going on far away behind the enemy lines. When you want to follow grads, when you want to detect artillery, right? If you start getting shelled at, you send a drone and you try to detect these the smokes, coming out of the guns, the tanks firing at you. Then you can relay that to the gun line in the rear. So there's a lot of work to do. It's not only just developing a drone, but it's basically organizing the whole battle space, like how to digitalize it, so your drone knows exactly what it is looking for and where it has to strike and what not to strike also. So if someone want to add something to that, that would be great. Sorry, English is not my first language, so I hope everyone understood what I meant. So
Pas de problème, Norman. Donc, si vous pouvez envoyer un DM à moi ou à Yehuda plutôt, peut rentrer en contact avec le groupe. Et MriyaReport, je sais pour certains, ils travaillent sur des drones. Donc, we can help with that. Go ahead, Yehuda.
No, nice. I didn't. Maybe you could let the audience know, because I don't know. Qu'est-ce qu'il fait là?
They were operating on the wrong day's crypto there again.
Okay. Okay. Welcome, Norman. Nice to have you.
Yeah. So Norman, if you could just DM Yehuda or any of the co-hosts, we can try to hook up and see how we can collaborate.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Norman, is this the same fellow? I'm not going to dox you, but is this the same fellow I may or may not have seen on local news?
You mean Norman Brigade?
Yeah, that's slick.
No, I'm the commander actually. I command the unit. I've been commanding the unit since February. So yeah, we've been hiding in the shadow, like maximum operational security. We haven't really went out there doing PR. I'm pretty shit at PR, to be honest. I'm nervous when there's a lot of people listening to me and shit, because English is not my first language, so I get nervous. But yeah, like this is the real Norman Brigade. Basically, this is what we are.
I had some questions, because at the beginning of the war, when Norman Brigade, or my understanding was listening to the exposés on CBC, is that Norman Brigade was stood up almost as a private army, and they weren't affiliated with the Ukrainian army. And are you now contract soldiers with the Ukrainians?
I'm glad you're asking. I'm willing to clarify that. So when we got into the country, we were already talking to the SBU for since 2019. Okay, because originally we're supposed to be some kind of humanitarian group, trying to deliver supplies to the front line, to the volunteer battalions, right? So when we arrived, everybody wanted to jump into the fight, right? So we basically linked up with the Ukrainian volunteer army. I'm talking about real volunteer battalions. They don't get paid. There was no contract. We arrived there. They literally armed us before they armed their own people. This is how trusted we were. And then we just kept fighting without a contract. But we were supporting the Ukrainian army. We're supporting ZSU, We're supporting the ZCU, we're supporting territorial defense, other volunteer battalion. When we showed up in a area of operation, there is command and control there. Okay, so you arrive, you present yourself. Okay, this is what we are. I have these guys, these weapons. Can you help? And often they gave us like javelins. They gave us like in-laws. They gave us the proper weapons that we need. We didn't cowboy our way into an area of operation. I want everybody to understand that there is command and control. You propose operations, you get green light, you don't get green light, and this is how it works. Private army, I don't think it was the right term, but a volunteer unit, that's pretty much what it was.
Well, give the boys from Alberta my best. There's several of them I know that are there.
Oh, really? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. Battle. You said, oh, really? C'est vrai.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into it for OPSEC, obviously. But do you have time to take some questions?
Oh yeah, of course. But just to continue, basically with the contract part. So probably 3 weeks ago, we've been invited to integrate the Ukrainian army. So some fighting group that was into a volunteer battalion transferred basically to the ZCU, and they talk with the brigade commander in Ukraine. I'm not going to say which one it is for operational secrecy for obvious reason. And they said, yeah, bring the Normans. Bring the Normans with you. They will remain, the unit they are. Haruf will remain the commander. And then they will have proper contract. They will have proper life insurance. I would guess some kind of Geneva Convention protection, but to be honest, the Russians, they don't care about that. If they catch you, they do what they do to you, right? So yeah, we're moving under contract, and it has been a very, it's like total recognition to us basically, because we've been fighting hard, we've been working hard. We didn't ask a single dime from the Ukrainian army. We relied heavily on donations, but that was to acquire technical equipments, like ballistic protection, drones, radios, stuff like that. But yeah, I can take questions if you want.
All right, folks, you know the drill. If you want to ask a question, raise your hand and we'll get to you in order. We do have a full speakers panel, so if you don't have your hand up, we're going to have to cycle you down in order to make room for other speakers. So if you can, if you don't have anything that you want to ask or say, just to click on your icon, move down to listener, and that helps us with the algorithm. So in order, I believe Alex was first, followed by Nina, followed by Chris.
Thank you. I did not have a question to Normal Legion per se, but I think I will still. Well, obviously, I can't ask where they operate because that's probably something we should not be asking. So I need to figure out what is a question I can still ask. Like, how big is the unit, and do you still? Do you still see people coming in trying to join?
Yes. Oh, yes. Every week we have people from all over the world. They want to get involved. One of the thing is most of them don't have military experience or combat experience. So I would say 80% of the people inquiring to enlist in Norman Brigade, we have to turn them down, sadly.
Do you have room for three? Sorry, there, Yehuda. Do you have room for 3 old SIGs?
Yeah. As long as you're in shape, fit, you're willing to train hard. You're willing to unlearn what you know and to relearn, according to the situation, because the battle space, it's something we haven't seen since Second World War, but you have the technological side also that makes this kind of battlefield even more lethal. So we're talking about drones, detections, thermal capabilities, all these kind of things that makes the job way harder than it was in 1939 to 1945.
Yeah, but the soldiers who have been trained in this century, are you saying that the average person who's graduated from Gagetown, from the School of Excellence, would have to relearn everything?
Not necessarily, because artillery is artillery. The doctrine doesn't really change. It's the time response really, and how you authorize these strikes, right? The Ukrainians still have a very centralized way to control the artillery, right? So in the past, we've been trying to push the concept of, okay, each battalions should have their own mortars. It's us, controlling the artillery, but in their mind, it's us, covering the artillery, since their doctrine is based on heavy artillery. So infantry is there to cover the artillery, which is totally different in our doctrine. But yeah, any gunner, wouldn't have any problem. You shoot, fucking scoop, repeat, and that's
but you don't have guns with you. You're all infantry, obviously.
So the unit that we were embedded with, they had their mortars. So we're launching drones. We had these tablets where you can send coordinates. You relay these coordinates through radio. It goes through command and control. Goes up to the general. Generals says yes, no, and then this is all with the artillery works. Now, when you have your mortar tubes, it's a lot faster. In 5 minutes, not even, you have rounds already landing on your targets. But it takes coordination, it takes cooperation, right? So since we're gonna get officialized, I'm gonna have a beautiful Christmas list. We have the specialists, to man these mortar tubes. And then we'll do the best with what we have.
Yeah, the Ukrainian army is far different than it was in the Soviet times with the training, right? As you know, they've been trained to NATO and Canadian standards and American standards for a long time. So you're saying you're not seeing any of that on the battle space?
No, so the way they use the artillery, I think Canadians and Americans and NATO in general have done a very good job at training them on these guns. But the command and control, like when you request artillery support, you might get like a no-go. This is the thing.
That's the
Depending
same
on the
everywhere,
mission.
though. You don't always get you don't always get your guns, right? Do you have a foo with you or a fac?
Sorry.
You have a foo with you? Un foo avec toi or a fac?
So we had 2 forward observers, but since we use drones to acquire targets, and then we have the tablets, where you can acquire coordinates very fast, and then you send it back to the artillery gun line through command and control. It's not necessarily needed. It always depends of the situation. If it's foggy, if it's heavily raining, you might want to send your forward observer. But if it's if you have proper weather to use your drones, it's not needed, really.
Okay. I was just wondering what your orbit looks like there. That's all.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Sorry, go ahead, Battle and Bloke with the question.
No problem. Once again, I'm going to kind of skip the queue here and go to David because he has a potato connection, and it's always a pain in the derriere to get him up here. So, David, go ahead.
Thank you, Battle. It's great to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you for hosting and Bloke. And Maria, thank you very much, Norman, for joining us. It's a real privilege to have you speaking to us. My question really relates to what you said in your introduction. I'm very curious. How is it that you would identify targets that you would like to attempt? Or you had mentioned that you would suggest missions and then have them discussed and approved or not. I'm just really interested to see if you could speak to us about how you would go about gathering your information and seeing where it is you might want to take action on. If there's something you can speak about. Otherwise, just please bring back our best regards to your men. We are here with them. We look forward to welcoming them home. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm not too sure I've well understood your question. You mean the course of action when I have to take a decision according to what context, if I can ask? I'm not too
no
sure.
problem. It's all right. Maybe English isn't my first language either. So what I mean is, you mentioned when you were speaking at the start that the command and control structure is slightly different in that you, as a leader, would identify tasks and goals that you might want to achieve or attack, but you would run that through the organized central command in that particular area. And I was just curious how it is you would go about identifying such targets for yourself on the ground before it is you plug in, or how does that, I was just curious to learn more about it if you can speak to it. If you can't, of course, no problem. And thanks for being here.
Okay, so on a battlefield, you always need the situation awareness, right? The front line is not necessarily static. Okay, it moves quite a little bit. From time to time, you can move 500 meters, then they counterattack, and then you have to move back 500 meters. They move a lot of vehicles around. You set up like listening posts, you set up observation posts, and then you have proper drone monitoring, right? So you can hear a tank, from pretty far away, 2-3 kilometers, or a BTR or a BMP, right? And then once people start to take fire from these vehicles, or you hear them coming, right away I was telling the guys, okay, launch a drone. I want to know what's going on, where these MFS are going, right? Same thing for artillery. When artillery was falling into the area, okay, guys, send a drone. You have a digital zoom on it, and then let's acquire targets. Let's see what's going on. So we were relaying, we were acquiring these informations. As I said, you have a tablet with the classified program where if you have a Starlink connection, in real time, you can relay that to the command and control. You have like impromptu decisions.
That's fascinating. Yeah, go on.
You have impromptu decisions to take, right? Like this. If I see a tank 800 meters coming, towards us, I'm not going to ask command and control if I can take the shot. I'm going to take the javelin, tell the guys, okay, obliterate this tank, right? This is the kind of thing. But when we are talking about, going into a village, trying, to snatch and grab, or to go there, acquire intel, or to grab prisoners if you can, or just to raid them. You have to shape a little bit this operation, right? So, for instance, I'm not going to disclose the actual
only
city where we were.
General things, generalisms.
But when we were fighting in Donetsk Oblast, the way the terrain was shaped is that there was a village like down a ridge, and then we're controlling a ridge, and at the tip of that ridge, the Russians were controlling the whole the whole side, going from that hill down to the village with a T-80 tank, right, from that farm. So the Ukrainians wanted to attack. They wanted to storm those positions. And during that meeting, I asked them right away, okay, guys, do you realize that we have a tank there? Yes. Okay. So you want to come down that hill, moving small teams at night when, these people have they clearly have thermal optics, right? They said yes. And I asked them, I'm like, okay, do you have smoke artillery? You have to blind that tank either to force him to move so we can send a team with in-laws to destroy that tank and then open the path down to that village, or you just want to go head on and not care about the casualties and stuff like that. I've noticed that the Ukrainians are very, very courageous. They are not afraid to take risks, but sometimes it's a little bit suicidal, right? So when we felt that we could achieve a lot, by coordinating the artillery, infantry, combined arms, operation, we were going to the AO and we said, okay, we have these targets there, we have this, we have found infantry into this house. We would recommend to do that. Do you green light this? Do you give us can we have guns, for this operation? And they would allow it or not, technically. So this is pretty much how the things worked. As long as we had like a good flow of information and a good situational awareness, we were able to do miracles in our area of operation. As long as you have eyes and you know what's going on, you should be fine.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Stay safe. Keep your head down.
I have another question because the Norman Brigade has been living in the shadows there, not like the Georgian Brigade that's out front and doing a lot of media. I noticed on a lot of your pictures in your profile that you're sporting the the red ensign insignia, which was the part of the Canadian Brigade. What happened to the Canadian Brigade, or did the Norman and Canadian Brigade amalgamate?
We have never been part of that Canadian Brigade itself. The patch of the Norman Brigade comes from the Quebec coat of arms. The Norman Brigade at first was nothing elitist. That was just to unify the French speaker, English speaker. A lot of us in Quebec come from a Norman background. Like all the settlers. The first wave of settlers that came to Canada when France was controlling, part of North America, came from Normandy, right? But you have a lot of people in England, in the United States, they come from a Norman background, right? So this is why we had that patch. But I don't remember our media, department, just rocking the Canadian Norman Brigade patch. I don't think this was a thing. At first, I think it was a thing, but they got absorbed very fast into the Ukrainian military because, most of them knew how to speak Ukrainian. They came from Western Canada and they just decided to go directly into the Ukrainian army, probably because they realized that they would have, better weapons, better support, proper contract, proper protection. So yeah, that was their choice. But I've never seen them on the battlefield proper. I never seen this Canadian Brigade, Canadian Ukrainian Brigade, whatever it is.
Yeah, we've had the Georgian Brigade and the Ukrainian Territorial Defense in here speaking before, and one of the things that we touched on is is these volunteer brigades and the lack of contracts. Can you maybe speak to how much the contract protects you and the troops? And one of the things that the Territorial Defense spokesman was saying is how they treat the fallen soldiers. Is they will actually ship them back to Canada.
Okay, yeah. So when we had people come into Norman Brigade, we're extremely clear on what we could do in terms of what we can do with the body. I would say that pretty much all of them said, what, just bury me here, and then just let my family know. If they want to take the decisions, we would advise that they do it after the war to bring the body back, right? But they at 100%, I can assure you that they just wanted to get buried there. They said, what, I'm dead anyway. I died. If I die, I died doing what I love. Most of these people, were not there for the money. Like we had like professionals like Recon Marine, we had like Royal Marines, we had like people from all over the world with like extensive special forces background. They were just happy to be in the fight. So the contract really didn't matter because, as I said, in the end, if you're a foreigner, you get, let's say, captured by the Russians, you will probably most likely end up in a bad position or killed, or everything can happen. And this is the thing, right? Even the soldiers from the International Legion, if I recall, the Russians stated that even these soldiers, even if they had a contract, they would not be recognized. So to us, it really didn't make a difference. And we had a former member, if you don't mind that I talk about it. So Joshua Jones, he was killed in Donbass 2 weeks ago. He was a former member of the Norman Brigade, and then he moved back to the International Legion because he needed money to support his family back home. He was a young father. And then he got killed. We've done a memorial for him in Kiev, and yet the Russians still have his body. Even if the DNR, Donetsk, whatever republic they're calling it, they stated their desire to send the body back, and now his mother went back in the media, I think it's like 5 days ago, stating that she didn't have any more news. She didn't have news anymore from Donetsk, about Joshua's body. So I don't think that the contract can, guarantee that your body will go back home if your parents, desire that. I never saw the problem if the parents ask, for the body, okay, we're gonna mark the grave, let's wait after the war, or if really they insist, well, we can facilitate that. There's a lot of resource inside Ukraine, through volunteer network that can facilitate, these kind of operation. But as I said, it was never on the table when we talked to our guys. They just said, okay, just bury me there, and that's it.
No, I agree. I probably be the same way. Put here's $300. Put it on the mess. Put it on the table at the mess, and have a couple rounds on me. It'd be nice to be buried with military honors, which the spokesperson for the territorial defense says they will do that if it's possible. If they can, any troop that falls in Ukraine is put to rest with full military honors.
Oh, it's well deserved. It's this is how it should be, but sometimes the situation makes it so hard you don't really have time. It's sad as it gets.
I'm sure it does. If we can go to a couple hands, we have Chris, Nina, then Alex.
Oh, hi. Great to meet you. So you've got some British guys with you, is that right?
Yeah, we've got a few. We've got Australians. We had Irish people at one point, and they were all motivated. Very, very motivated blokes, awesome guys. I even still have like some Yorkshire tea with me that some guys brought back from England as a gift.
Okay. Okay, that's great. And just I got the like the bit of the history, which obviously as a British guy I barely understand all the Quebecois thing and all of that, right? But like so Norman Brigade, why is it Norman Brigade? Is that like to do with the Normans? Is it because it's like French, or is that why it's Norman?
Okay, so as I explained previously, so the first wave of settlers that came to Canada in the 1500s, 1600s, they came from Normandy. Normal people, farmers, fishermen.
Okay.
nothing crazy, but the concept behind Norman Brigade was that it was not about the size of the unit, right? It was more about the specialties. But the founders originally, we all come from a Norman background, right? And then we wanted to transport this heritage through unification of people in England, France, Canada, United States. Because if you follow history a little bit, you had like 1 million so-called French-speaking Canadians that had immigrated to the United States into the 1800s. So you will have quite a few Americans with anglicized French name, but most of them, would come from Normandy. I'm not denying that other regions of France have, sent settlers, under the French crown back in the days. But when it comes to that warrior heritage, this is what we wanted to bring on the battlefield. And having the Anglo-Saxons with us, that would have been unthinkable. I think after 1066, but it's we all came to the consensus that we all in the ship together, and we're proud to be fighting alongside each other against the Russians.
Oh, that's just amazing. Just fantastic at that. So, I'm half Anglo-Saxon and half Celt. I don't know if you've got any Welsh people there with you as well. But so the thing I was going to do, you mentioned when you came on, you mentioned the drone session that we had earlier, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to presume anything, because I haven't been in this group, very long, so I don't want to presume anything, right? But that the area is an area of specialization for me in the UK. So I have a lot of drone contacts here. The people that were speaking earlier, I know the company. They are actually very close to me. And so, I'm very interested in the area, and I'm an investor over here in the UK. And one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to basically pull together, not necessarily free donations, but investments in, the intellectual property, if you like, that's being built up there in Ukraine. Yeah, so it's one of the things I'm doing. So I'm speaking to a lot of Ukrainian companies, about the things that they're doing, the pioneering things that they're doing, if you like, in defense. So, having said that, so what I was going to say is just like I need to discuss with the people that are here and that, but about like basically getting together some people that are knowledgeable in the drone and AI and machine learning area, which is my speciality, along with cybersecurity. I'm ex-Navy weapons engineer officer, and so what I was going to say, it was just like somehow just try and like document your views and what needs to happen, like you were saying, and then we'll just try and come back to you again for that input and that feedback, if that sounds like a plan. And hopefully that's okay, guys. You guys that are running the group here, I hope that'll be okay.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to collaborate with you. I think that return of experience, we call it RETEX in French. I think it's very important. I think you guys, of course, you're doing the right thing by trying to understand the reality on the battlefield and what needs, to be achieved in a short period of time. So I'm totally open to help you guys with feedbacks.
Okay, and you don't need to confirm or deny this, but I'm familiar with the GIS-ARTA system.
I'm not too sure.
Okay, so it's basically the artillery targeting system that's being used in Ukraine. So
there are like 3 programs right now. So
okay.
So this is right. You might come across a a unit that's, you're talking about the tablet, right? Like the software in the tablet that is used to relay artillery coordinates, right?
Yeah, over here they call it the Uber of artillery. I don't know if you heard that. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, there is quite a few up there.
Okay.
But the Ukrainians have been trying to standardize the whole thing. So yeah, I don't remember the name, but I can recognize that software right away.
Okay, so it's so the one that I know is GIS-ARTA, GIS ARTA.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. No worries, mate.
Noted.
Okay.
Noted.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So that's great. I'll try and DM you and that, as long as that's all okay with the guys here.
All good.
Okay, mate. All the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris, can you DM me? Because your DMs are closed.
Oh God!
I forget the order here, bloke. But I'm pretty sure Nina had her hand up for a hot minute. Alex, and then we're just going to make the rest of you fight in the Jello pit to see who talks next.
That's correct. It's Nina and Alex, and 100% correct about the fighting in the Jello pit.
Okay, thank you. Norman Brigade, thank you for what you are doing. My first language is not either English, I'm Finnish. And I highly appreciate what you guys are doing. I didn't hear how long you have been there, so my question would be that how you have seen like the war changing during the time you have been there, and how are you preparing for the big changes for the winter coming? Thank you.
Well, through training. So when we arrived back in February, March, that was cold still, but in the south you had in the southeast you had a little less snow. That was damp, that was like rainy day basically. Up north in Kiev, I know that was a little colder. So we didn't have really to fight against the cold. For now, what's coming, like the winter coming, it's going to be training. It's going to be reassessing everyone's personal skill set. Since we don't only have Canadians and Nordic people in Norman Brigade, we're going to have to teach these people. Also, probably if the Ukrainians are willing to attend these lessons, how to survive the cold, how to manage your time, how to make sure you can function into extreme temperature warfare. Everything's going to be all right. This is why I tell my guys, don't think you have the most awesome skill set until you haven't been until you hit like a very hard situation. So it will come down to logistic, right? Like having the proper clothes, making sure they understand that you need onion layers, how to protect yourself from the cold, from snowstorms, depending of the terrain you are protecting or attacking, or there's a lot of things to take into consideration when you do that. But the first priority will have to work on their personal skill set, because I think you need to be extremely disciplined. You need to be a very disciplined soldier when you fight into extreme weather like this. Canadian Army, we've been taught how to function into these kind of temperatures. We've been taught to fight on skis. We've been taught to fight on with snowshoes. How to build quinzes, how to build like fortifications with trees, and had like a 12-foot layer of packed snow in front of your of your fortifications and stuff like that, to make sure it slows down the bullets and stuff. So yeah, it's there's a lot of detail to take into consideration. So this is how I will prepare to make sure we have the proper logistic and the proper training.
Thank you. Thank you. And just following, I think we have the same, a little bit similar conditions, weather conditions in Finland as you have in Canada.
Oh yes, the good old winter warfare. I love it.
Alex.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not the first time I'm hearing about mortars and kind of their importance. And meanwhile, when you read the news about military equipment shipped to Ukraine, much more focus is on big ticket items, which is kind of understandable. Like HIMARS, now they are speaking about, airplanes and big machines. My question is about mortars. So, is it matter of, it's trickling down and this saturation level is not enough, or does it lacks focus? Where do you guys get your mortars? Is there any foreign supplies, or mainly Russians give you those mortars, or how you go about it? Because clearly you have more control about mortar fire than on HIMARS fire, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. So, for instance, when we were embedded with one of the volunteer units, they had their own mortars, right? They were Soviet made. You had the 82 millimeter, and then you had the 120 millimeter. So they had been fighting already since 2014. So they already had access to this kind of armaments, right? Now, I'm not sure exactly, where they're going to come from, because we're going to move to the CEU, as I have explained. We're going to get into a proper contract. So they might be foreign mortars. It's possible. As I said, I'm going to have a Christmas list. I hope they're going to, honor this Christmas list. I'd like to have, I don't mind talking about this because, it's already well known, that you have like grenade launchers and all kind of like, support device on the front line. But what I'm looking for is these portable mortar tubes, like 40, 60 millimeter, where you just have you stuck it right in front of you, right? You hold it in your hand, right? But and you have like a bubble level. It gives you the distance, like 200-meter range, and then you can have like proper support at like section level, platoon level, these kind of things. It comes to firepower, also what the people can carry. Of course, you don't want to overload them with a shit ton of equipment. But when it comes to support, I'm very specific that we should have proper support. So it might come from foreign aid. It might be a Soviet one. The system differs a little bit. Like it has some difference, but the essence of the concept itself, it's all the same, right? I heard some people before talking about how it was a great achievement to change, your caliber or your guns, from Soviet made to NATO made, right? Well, it's not that complicated because you don't put everyone on the front line. You have like reserves in the back, right? But you have to train these reserves. And while us people are fighting at the front, you just have to learn this new system. But the actual essence of what the artillery gun is and what a new weapon is, it's the same concept. You're just lobbing a different caliber into the Russians' face. Because that's pretty much that. So we'll see how we'll adapt, but it should be fast. It should be quick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is this where Den and I start wrestling in Jello to decide who's next? I'm just kidding. Den, please.
Yeah,
Den, please
absolutely. Get on it, boys.
Den, go ahead and go. I'll hold.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
wait.
250 pounds. So let's go. I'm just joking. Thanks.
Feel free. You go.
Okay. So Norman,